of the day. Let's start here, guys. If there is ever an opportunity for conspiracy theorists to have a point, and for people who think that the NFL just arranges all of this to get Kansas City in to have a point, it was this game.
Yeah.
It was the simultaneous catch for Xavier Worthy that was called a catch. It was Christian Benford, a player that Buffalo could not have get hurt. And the refs didn't injure him. I get it. But again, if you want to talk about how everything always lines up for Kansas City, Kaiir Elam could not stop most of our grandparents from running a go route past the sticks. And then you have the spot, the QB sneak for Josh Allen, called short on the field. And, of course, that's always going to stand. Kansas City is exactly what we thought they were.
They are.
Yeah.
And they were at home. Patrick Mahomes, actually, I'll give a little bit of credit on this one. Andy Reid adjusted somewhat. He used what they said he couldn't do with Patrick Mahomes and made it an attribute for them. Okay, he actually ran with Patrick, and Patrick took some hits, which, again, was a little bit of, like, backhanded to everybody. It was like, they're protecting Patrick. Like, that was your opportunity to go hit him right there in those moments, and he did take some shots. But it was also one of those game plan moments to where, Will, like you said, if the script isn't written, it also make you still feel like Patrick Mahomes is going to be protected when he's running towards you and he's leaning forward with his shoulder. So I don't want to hit him too hard, man. Like, there was a lot of those situations, of course. But on top of that, man, here's the other side for me. The Chiefs are just that hated that some player always does something that just makes them like go over the top. Like, I'm watching Phillips, the defensive tackle from the Bills, right?
Jordan Phillips. He after the play, it's Patrick Mahomes. DeMar Hamlin slams Patrick Mahomes onto the ground, and they had a little, everybody had a face-to-face, which is appropriate. But like Jordan Phillips, don't run up on the man and then start hitting him in the head like with your helmet. Like, those types of things were just a goat in the Chiefs' favor more than not. But everything that you wanted. James Cook played lights out. And, well, Kayla, they're just good. Worst thing that happened in that game was Patrick Mahomes trying to spike the football. Like, that was
he admitted it, too.
Yeah. That was the worst thing that happened in the game was Patrick Mahomes, spiking the football. But you got to give it up to him, though. Like, they did what you needed them to. As far as, winning the football games, Patrick was able to find guys down the field. The right amount of running happened in that football game. And I mean, Kansas City's offensive line, as a replacement left guard is playing left tackle, you still didn't get an opportunity to expose them. So as much as I want to give the refs a lot of just credit or discredit, you still had opportunities. And then on top of that, Dalton Kincaid, you had an opportunity to come back to it.
Got to make the play.
You got to make the play.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's annoying. I'll say it first. And I didn't used to be annoyed by the Chiefs. Definitely annoyed by them now. It's getting to the point where I just want to see somebody else in the mix that's just as good. Look, the Buffalo Bills are just as good as the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs have luck on their side in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying because of the calls. I don't think there was any atrocious calls last night. Yeah, the spot with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
You could have went either way on that, honestly. I don't even know. I was kind of torn down the middle. I think they should have probably given him the first down, but there's a lot of people that said, I don't know. I just think in this type of game, it's just splitting hairs. It's almost who comes down with having the ball last and who makes a little bit more plays in the end, because I really do think these are two pretty decent teams. And the Buffalo Bills, without a strong enough secondary, I think having some injuries in their secondary really hurt them in this game. Early on, too. But more so than anything, it's just okay, Kansas City, like you said, they always get the benefit of the doubt. And that's why you almost look at the Super Bowl, and I know Philadelphia has a lot of big parts to give them a run for their money. But when it's all said and done, I feel like the Chiefs are just destined to be this three-peat team that we haven't seen in a long time.
Ever,
yeah.
The NFL.
In the NBA, I guess, was the Lakers. This is the last time we saw a three-peat sport.
And the only team that can save us is the lame-ass Eagles.
I know, exactly.
Choose your
and that's
poison.
not fun either.
Right.
Who would y'all rather beat this morning, Mark Andrews or Dalton Kincaid?
Woof.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
I wonder if Bills fans
Probably
will
Dalton
donate to the charity of their own tight end like they did the
Ravens fans will, though. Ravens fans will.
Baltimore Ravens fans going to donate to Dalton Kincaid's charity.
Me being petty, with a playoff game on the line, 3:30 to go, fourth down, you got to get a score. Lamar Jackson goes 88 yards without his top two receivers and scores. Josh Allen turns it over on downs after 17 yards.
The throw he made, though, was pretty incredible.
Sure.
Considering there was a guy right in his face. You idiot.
And I don't even know if he really knew that was going to happen.
1045 is our number. Eagles and Chiefs, the Super Bowl set. We'll tell you how Patrick Mahomes joined the ranks of Joe Montana and Tom Brady with something he did last night. We'll do that coming up next.
If you're often feeling tired, lacking motivation, drive, or gaining weight or noticing a loss of muscle mass, man, these could all be signs of low testosterone. Don't wait. Find out, all right? At Low T Center, they make it easy to get your levels checked. And it's just a simple test. And with their on-site lab, you get your results back right there on site. Low T Center is not a typical doctor's office either. The physicians specialize in treating low T with testosterone replacement therapy or TRT for each patient. The experts at Low T Center have over a decade of experience helping patients, and super important here, the personal treatment plans are optimized for each patient. These aren't just basic standard treatments. No, for the current patients also, Low T Center offers you a $150 referral credit for each new patient that you offer. And Low T Center, you can also get your health evaluated also for treatment with prescription GLP-1 weight loss medication. So get back to your best. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointments today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare. My friends at Genesis Diamonds are psyched for the new year, man. Lots of great things are happening, and they are ready to help you celebrate those important milestones with better value, higher quality, and uncompromising customer care. At Genesis, they have expanded their selection of exquisite hand-picked diamonds from a half a carat to 15 carats, all shapes, all sizes, all at Genesis famous no middleman prices. They have also brought in even more exclusive designer jewelry too. New cutting edge fashion forward rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, pendants, things you can't find anywhere else. Remember, Genesis is the only place where you can find all the premier designers in the world, in the bridal world, all right? And of course, Genesis is proud to offer truly spectacular collection of luxury pre-owned Rolex timepieces. They have all the most popular models in stock too. So get to Genesis in 2025 and let the non-commissioned experts help you celebrate those important milestones. They guarantee the best value, the highest quality, and the strongest warranties and guarantees in the jewelry industry. And they also have no commission salespeople, so there's no pressure to buy. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolex timepieces are located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Kicking off the show and kicking off the week on RKW 615-737-1045. Chiefs and Eagles for the bowl. And yesterday, Patrick Mahomes once again joined some elite company. He seems to do this every time he straps on a helmet. He earned the sixth fourth-quarter comeback of his playoff career, breaking a tie with Joe Montana for second all-time. He only trails Tom Brady's 9 fourth-quarter playoff comebacks.
Dang.
Man, is on a tear. He's doing exactly what they said his career was going to be like from the time they drafted him. Goodness gracious, like watch it really show up.
He has been the picture of consistency.
This dude needs a scandal. We need something to happen.
I thought it'd be with his wife.
It's always beside him. It's always like his daddy, his brother, his mama, his daddy. You know what I mean? I need him to mess up. I need him to do something bad, man. I'm tired of this guy being perfect, man.
And his brother's kind of out of the picture now. I haven't heard much of his brother.
I'm sure they told him, if you want to be on payroll, sit your behind down.
Exactly.
Is what they told him.
Sit down, boy.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is this, though, is he's done it in a way that I think is a little bit better than what Brady them have so early. And what I will say this, I appreciate this about him, of course. We listen to like the pregame stuff, and he acknowledged something. And I don't think you get many players that do these types of things, but he acknowledged that he was a villain now. He said in the beginning he knew that everybody was cheering for him, and I was too. I remember saying like he's one of the main guys that everybody in NFL loves, and that's because he was knocking off Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? Like he was the new kid in town, and he mentioned that on the pregame yesterday. It was just like, yeah, I didn't appreciate what Tom in New England did. He said he was so much of a Dallas Cowboys fan growing up that he hated everything that Tom Brady was into. And I would only imagine, too, when he had the opportunity to beat him, I'm sure he was happy about that. When he lost to him, he was happy about that, too. But he acknowledged, he was like, man, I didn't realize how tough this would be. He didn't say all of that, but he somewhat acknowledged, like, it is tough being in this position. And it was kind of cool to hear because players don't usually acknowledge that type of stuff, especially while they're playing. So he's getting a lot of hate. He's getting a lot of, pushback on what the Chiefs are doing. I'm appreciative of the fact that he acknowledged it, though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because as Kansas City as a whole, I am tired of seeing them win. There's no doubt about that.
I'm not, actually.
I like change, and I felt that way with Brady, too. But with Brady, he annoyed me. And I think it was because the type of team he played on, it was buttoned up. He was like this figure that you really didn't know exactly who Tom Brady was. Whereas Patrick Mahomes is the person. I know that he's overplayed in commercials and all that. I don't really think I'm bothered by Patrick Mahomes. I think just I'm bothered by the Kansas City Chiefs as a whole. So Patrick Mahomes, to me, like being a guy that's kind of been who he was advertised to be is really a rarity nowadays in terms of the quarterback position. So I give him credit for that. And there's been times that this offense hasn't been perfect for him. There was the time when the offensive line wasn't great. He's been beat up at times, and he still continues to find ways to get it done. So I respect that aspect. I think it's just the team overall and all the storylines that come along with it that kind of get played out.
Ramon, why aren't you annoyed of the Chiefs?
Because it's the same reason Patrick Mahomes realized that, when you see greatness, sometimes appreciate it. I've become better at that. I feel like,
glad you have.
Huh?
Speak for yourself. I'm glad you have.
I know. But, it's because also, too, I saw this guy be this good. Mm-hmm. And here's the other part. Caleb pointed out a bunch of reasons right there why they shouldn't be there. The offensive line it was back and forth a little bit over the course of this year.
Yep.
Their defense has actually moved to the forefront of all things that they're doing right now. The reason they're in that situation because that defensive line was stout enough, depending on the camera angles, to stop Josh Allen moving forward.
They're on a heater again. George Karlaftis and Chris Jones are playing their best football right now.
They are, man.
And they're healthy.
And they're making plays that you need to have made at a certain point in time, too. And here's the other side, the way I view this year's Chiefs. And I know somebody will say, Ramon, well, dang, they only lost 2 games this year. But if you look at, the way the other teams were stacked up on the AFC side of things, let's go Baltimore, and I guess the only comparable would be Buffalo. Mm-hmm. I think Josh Allen is probably a better playmaking quarterback right now with what he can do with the ball in his hands as opposed to Patrick Mahomes. I look at Lamar. He can win his third MVP already. They went and got Derek. They got a defense. They checked every single box. So I'm asking myself, and it's probably because I'm not playing because I hated the Patriots too. I'm with them. I absolutely hated it. But watching Patrick Mahomes seem to do more with what less teams or what other teams have more of, do more with less compared to what other teams have going on is why I can somewhat appreciate it. And then, of course, Andy Reid's ability to manage the game well. You look at their staff, it seems like good ideas are coming from everybody. Not just that. They, either because of their culture or because of because of their culture, they bring a guy up off of practice squad, and he has a major crazy return for them last night in the game. So I don't remember his name off top. But they continue to do these things. Like, that's where
Kareem Hunt was like a big part of yesterday. Like
Isaiah Pacheco's not supposed to be that guy. Trey Smith is not supposed to be that guy. They got a left guard playing left tackle at a rate that's higher than probably some teams. I know it's probably better than right here in Tennessee, respectfully to J.C. Latham. Like, think about that. So,
yeah,
I'm pleased by it.
I'm not at all. I mean, look, the scandal with Patrick Mahomes y'all looking for is what he's named his kids, Golden, Bronze, and Sterling. So that is the scandal for Patrick, first and
Olympics,
foremost.
you should like that.
Not as names of children. Not as names of children.
With bronze?
These are human beings.
Why wouldn't you name him platinum? Why would you give him the third place?
Gold.
Like, why would
tough.
you give him the
really tough.
loser medal?
He could have named him Cash.
His name is Patrick Bronze Lavon.
Oh, is this his middle name?
Well, they call him Bronze. That's the whole point.
Oh, well.
Probably named him after his brother or something
Bronze.
because he's in last place in their family, I guess.
And I think he might be Patrick the third, maybe, because isn't Mahomes the second?
I think so.
So then Bronze would be Patrick Mahomes the third, so you're Bronze. Still not better. I think the way Patrick acts on the field makes him unlikable.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
are
I think
you
there's
kidding?
worse quarterbacks.
The way he just slowly just wades over to the sideline and, oh my gosh, I got shot. Like, happens all the time. The way he slowly slides down. Oh, ref. The way him and Travis complain to the refs on every single call that doesn't go their way. And then him a couple of years ago, after Travis Kelce had the lateral to win the game at the buzzer, and it was Kadarius Toney who was offsides. Yeah. And then Patrick goes to Josh Allen. That's just the worst call I've ever seen, bro. I can't believe they just took that away from him. Well, like, buddy, your guy was offsides.
He was.
The way he acts annoys me. But I do think we are in another Tom Brady era at a time where we never thought we'd see another Tom Brady happen again. It's happening before our very eyes.
Yeah.
And it's just the X factor in the way he plays his best football in January every single year. I mean, this is not Kansas City offense of 2021. Like, this is not the Kansas City offense of 2019 that got past the Titans. Like, this is a really good defensive team with an offense that just makes plays when they need to. And right now, both of them are playing better than any other unit in football at the same time, again, because this is just who they are and what they do.
Yeah, and I just think you have to give, again, a ton of credit to Steve Spagnuolo and what he's done with this defense. There's a lot of parts in there that are late-round draft picks that they're getting a lot out of. And that's another reason you talk about having continuity from the front office down. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
And if you're all on the same page and what you're trying to plug into this team, whether they're superstars, first-round pick, second-round pick, seventh-round pick, this team's been able to get a lot out of it. One more thing. DeAndre Hopkins, if you're trying to remember what that trade was about, it could have possibly turned into a fourth-round pick.
It will not.
It will not, because, yes, he is going to the Super Bowl. That's one part of it. But the other part is he had to play 60% of the snaps.
He's played close to 48%.
Yes.
Yeah. Chiefs, meanwhile, it's kind of funny. The Titans, remember, when they were the 1 seed, were told you're the worst 1 seed of all time because you're winning one-score games at an unsustainable rate. Remember that conversation?
I do remember that.
The Chiefs have now won 17 straight one-score games and are 12-0 this season in one-score games.
No way.
That's who they are.
Oh, my gosh.
That is who they are. Eagles 55, Commanders 23. Look, Jaden Daniels was excellent.
He was.
He's not the reason why they lost. Stage was too big for Washington, right?
It was. I did.
Feels like the biggest takeaway you can have out of this game.
I mean, it was turnovers. That
It
were the
was.
biggest part for them.
Right.
Yeah.
I
exactly.
thought all the superlatives that the Philadelphia Eagles had, like in their cupboard, they showed up. They just did. By the way, if I ever had a vote for something like this, Saquon deserves it, period.
Yeah.
MVP.
Absolutely.
If the NFL will use talking about script in the first segment, to me, if the NFL ever wanted to break like the monotony of what like these awards are and actually make it seem fair, like it's only been so many 2,000-yard rushers. There's only been so many guys switch teams and elevate that team the way he has. He's done that.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're talking about most valuable player, it has to be a guy like Saquon Barkley to me. So for the writers that may be listening to us right now, do the right thing.
Well, it's already been done, so.
God.
Yeah, so I'm sure that will not be happening, even though
Voted on before the playoffs.
I'm in agreement with you, though.
It's nice, man.
Do you think they should vote for MVP before the Super Bowl?
Before the Super Bowl?
Right after playoffs.
Right after, yes, I do think they should do it right before the Super Bowl. Like, because there's if you're that good of a team, and that's where I am right now too. Like Lamar has a chance to win it for sure. Josh Allen and Patrick does too. I think Patrick's in third place of that group. But when we're talking about somebody like elevating their team and like carrying them through the playoffs, Saquon is a huge part. He's the main subject of that conversation to me with what Philly's got going on. Now I know they had the O-line, they had the defense, and they had the quarterback. Right, they got everything that you need, but the fact that the Giants, like, they need to incorporate that into the storytelling of why he's the MVP. The fact that the Giants said he wasn't worth it, and now here he is, probably the most valuable player on that team.
The Giants weren't willing to build around him enough to make him worth it. And I think that's what Philly, again, a front office that knows what they're doing, knows how to draft, has obviously inserted him into the equation where, Jalen Hurts, he's a good quarterback. He's not a world beater, though, right?
Yeah.
But when you add Saquon Barkley, you have tools like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Those type of, those type of things around you, it is going to elevate you a little bit. But Saquon was the piece that they added, but they also knew they had parts around him, and it all just worked really well. Giants weren't willing to do that. They didn't upgrade their offensive line, right? They didn't want to add a big piece, it feels like, when he was there at wide receiver, and it didn't get them anywhere with him. So best case scenario was that he went to Philly, and now look what's going on.
Oh, absolutely, man. But like you said, Philly's got a lot of grit. They play with a lot of attitude. Like, they are an embodiment of that city in every characteristic that you can think of. They had a parade down their streets last night. It was insane to me. But again, they made plays through the air when they had to. AJ being able to just beat Marshawn Lattimore when he did on the sideline like that.
He was a liability yesterday.
Yes, he was.
They were all up in each other's grill.
And then trying to fight afterwards. But, I mean, talking about Washington, I'm hesitant to say, yes, they're going to be right back in this spot again because the league will adjust at some point in time. They better be, and I'll say it, better be very strategic on how they choose to build around Jaden Daniels moving forward, too. Mm-hmm. Offensive line has to be a part of it. And just not only that, but, like, the weapons that he has, like, being able to keep that together. Like, that, to me, is going to be very just important to him moving forward because that year 2 adjustment is something I want to see him be able to do because his ability to escape and get out of the pocket was very smart this year. And I think you're going to have a lot of teams that putting them specifically on notice the same way we saw a little bit of C.J. Stroud pull back this year.
Sure. And really quick, also defensively, you got to build up defensively. You were going up against a Philly team that obviously had a key piece offensively that helped boost this team, but defensively, they're the best defense in the league right now. Yes. And you saw that.
I think the first storyline that hits me from the winning side of this, if we want to start there, is Zach Bond is the best story in the NFL that people aren't talking about enough. Guy that essentially goes from a Luke Gifford special teams linebacker ace and has become the best inside linebacker in football this season. Played his best game and his biggest moment as well, or one of his best games. 12 total tackles, tackle for loss, forced fumble, and then later recovered another fumble. The fumbles by Jeremy McNichols, by De'Ami Brown in the first quarter of this game. Clearly, that is something Philadelphia emphasizes. And I know the report from Aaron Andrews mid-game said, like, every time you see someone get up in practice and are not touched down by contact, Nick Sirianni teaches those players, punch the ball out. Mm-hmm. I want to punch the ball out the second a guy gets up. Those are the kinds of plays that make Philadelphia have the winning DNA that Washington is trying to develop in a short amount of time under Dan Quinn.
Yeah, they were aggressive. You said they're gritty. They're aggressive in on both sides of the ball and how they play, and you saw that. I mean, the opportunity to just get their fist on a ball, and knowing that it is something that Washington at times has struggled with. Shout out also to two Middle Tennessee guys on that roster defensively who had pretty good days. Oren Burks, who played at Vanderbilt, and Reed Blankenship, the MTSU product. By
the way, if this is correct, you know what Zach Bond has been paid this year?
What?
Not very much.
No, $1.1 million this year.
Not
he
a
might
lot.
be,
that's for sure.
He will be in line for the biggest non-quarterback raise going from 2024 to 2025 in the league.
Yes, he will. I'm with you. I hope he does go win it right now. But just all in all, Philly's game is to beat you down and just smother you, and they did a really good job of that. And you also, to that point, Jalen Hurts was good on throwing the ball downfield. I thought it was a little bit better. And I'm still shocked, too, that the tush push hadn't been outlawed by them. You watching it happen.
Well, but it doesn't always work for everyone.
Not for everyone.
We watch Buffalo struggle with it, so there's you can't outlaw a play just because one team can do it.
No, you don't. But what I'm saying is just watching it work. It's just it's the most unstoppable play ever. And I know there's a small percentage of it that's been stopped from time to time. I'm really joking about it by saying they had the center be hurt. And he was visibly wobbling.
Cam Jurgens.
Cam Jurgens was visibly wobbling last night, and they were still capable of getting first downs and touchdowns.
And Landon Dickerson's the one that was actually playing at first. Cam Jurgens was out hurt, and Dickerson was playing hurt. So
what's crazy too is they were about to fire Nick Sirianni. I mean, this was a talking point.
I think the fan base was about to fire Nick Sirianni. I don't know if the organization really was.
I mean, they made him fire all his coaches.
Yeah, this team has drama. It's not to be said that this team just all gets along. It is the most dysfunctional winning team, I feel like, because the drama is always apparent there, right? But the winning is also.
It's always drama in Philadelphia.
By the way, real quick before you go to the phones, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean being rookies doing what they doing too. That's what you want as a squad to see. Instant, just results from your draft picks. Insane.
They overhauled their roster with superstar talent and didn't even really spend that much money in the offseason. Saquon Barkley, Zach Bond, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. And Mekhi Becton.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson wasn't that expensive either, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm talking more about, he's a good player, obviously.
Of course,
but you look at those guys and the two rookies you drafted, Saquon Barkley, Mekhi Becton, you move from tackle to guard, becomes one of the best guards in the NFL, and Zach Bond on a 1-year, $3.5 million contract is maybe the best inside linebacker in the league this year.
And don't forget about their left tackle, who was a 6th round or 7th round.
For Mailata, he's been around.
I know, but still. Yeah. Just adding to the whole roster in general.
Bo is in Portland, 615-737-1045. What's up, Bo?
Yeah, if Philadelphia goes and wins the Super Bowl, I think Saquon Barkley will win the Super Bowl MVP for his birthday.
Yeah, he should.
Absolutely.
It depends on how you play in that game. Is that based off just the Super Bowl or just the playoffs in general? It's just the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl, yeah. But what's to say he's been a factor in every single game that he's played in.
At first toss.
It's insane.
You're thinking to yourself, no, absolutely not. And then he's gone again.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened in the last round of the playoffs for them. It's just, he's going to get the ball. Where's your safety at? Where's the outside help? There's no support on him. Are they that good up front blocking? I will add to that, too. He does have a monstrous offensive line.
Absolutely.
He's that good, and I don't know if the Giants would have been able to supply him with that offensive line.
No.
But you got to give credit to where it's due to. Those boys are moving people.
I think yesterday, though, it wasn't even the best example of that. That was a banged-up Philly offensive line.
But still, my point is, the grit that they're playing with right now, I hate to keep using that word, but the attitude that they're able to finish blocks with, and just how, to that point, if Sirianni's mad about, making them punch the football out, then you got to think their regiment that they have and practice for an offensive line is an every single day technique, get after you type of attitude, because you can't just jumpstart that on game day. You got to be trained to do that. It wouldn't shock me if they had one of the hardest training camps and practices of all teams in the NFL. I know Baltimore's team is like that, rough and rugged during training camp and
their line
practices.
coach is no joke, so I wouldn't doubt
it. It's going to be fascinating to see how they keep that together. And boy, get Mekhi Becton for what you got him for. They got a young center. Lane Johnson's the only replacement they got to think about in the next couple of years. And heck, it looks like he's never stopping playing football.
615-737-1045. More of a reaction to conference championship weekend. But coming up, we shift gears because, guys, Memorial Magic might be back. We'll talk about that next.
Hey, are you looking to build your confidence back in 2025? And maybe it has to do with your thinning hair. Look, I noticed about a year ago losing some hair in my temples and said, I'm not going to sit by and watch that happen. So I went and checked out my friends at We Grow Hair. They've been doing it here in Middle Tennessee for over 30 years and in the best way. Look, your hair is important, and they've got procedures to fit anybody in terms of their hair growth journey. I had PRP treatments done. I also had the PRP and laser treatments together. That is awesome when it comes to the laser treatments. You're in and out the door in 30 minutes. They work extremely well, and you're definitely going to see thicker, fuller hair after doing that consistently. If you want a little more hair, though, and that's your goal, no one else in Tennessee has the ARTIS robotic Few procedure, and We Grow Hair's high-density hair transplants that's going to give you 2 times more hair in one procedure. So go do yourself a favor and grow some hair. WeGrowHair.com. You don't have to wait. You can call them now at 615-376-6010. That's 615-376-6010, or go to WeGrowHair.com for a free consultation today.
Wrapping up hour one this morning on RKW, Ramon, Kayla, and Will. The Titans made a couple of hires yesterday, according to reports, and there is a common theme among them. We'll tell you what that is coming up in 15 minutes. But guys, shifting gears here for just a moment, Memorial Magic might be back. 74-69, Vanderbilt beats Kentucky over the weekend. The Commodores are 16-4. They are 4-3 in the SEC. They knocked off, obviously, 6th-ranked Tennessee last week. Then Jason Edwards leads the way with 18 points. Kentucky has lost consecutive games for the first time this season, and there is no longer any doubt Vanderbilt will be an NCAA tournament team.
Yes, they will. All right. Where are the Commodores and Lady Door fans that we're talking about them? Come on, don't call up here and tweet us.
We did challenge to go to their arena the other day, and they seem to have showed up.
Kentucky fans and Vanderbilt fans both showed up in a big way.
And I don't want to take away from that. What I'm saying is we are talking about them and being fair about it,
the game itself.
Yeah, like it was a good game. I was watching it in between games and stuff, and I knew when I saw Vandy up by, I think, like 8 points in the first half, I said, yup, this is exactly what happens. You let a team like Vanderbilt, who's talented, that's got really good guard player, defense is relentless, and for whatever reason, they can stroke the ball from their gym. Like they are good from deep when it comes to them playing the Memorial Gym, man. So Kentucky, not good enough. Welcome to the party, baby. Hey, it was that type of game, and when you're that far behind with how Vanderbilt plays, like it's hard for you to catch up and sustain it because they just go on runs, especially when they're inside the Memorial Gym, man, and nothing but a hats off to them. Really good team you got going right now. Keep the momentum going because the more SEC teams we get in, the better. And Vanderbilt right now is putting a lot of folks on notice. These are top 10 wins for them, and they're actually beating them. This ain't a luck. This ain't a lucky tip. None of those things are happening, man. Also, get your NIL and fundraising together. We're close to $1 million in court stormings right now.
$850K. Candace Troy-Lee was, according to one report, went up to the students and said, please do not rush the court. Let's spend this money on NIL for next year.
Oh, well, you know what?
It was still stormed.
You can't really go in the moment and say, we feel bad about doing that. I get where you're coming from because that is a lot of money. But when it's all said and done, nothing embodies like the comeback of something like just a natural reaction like that. And that's something that these students will talk about and share that hopefully other students will be like, I want to come and experience that atmosphere. That's what that's what you want. You want to grow it. I'm saying the current students that are there that aren't going to the games.
I thought you were talking about enrollment.
No, I'm just talking about,
because that's usually what happens on court stormings and field stormings is like,
No,
this is simple. I'm keeping it simple. Okay. Like just embodying what they have right now in Mark Byington in this squad.
Facts.
Because Vanderbilt basketball was a thing. It's not like they've never had basketball be a big time thing at Vanderbilt. It had been in the past, right?
Yep.
But it's been missing. It's been inconsistent. It's not been good enough in the SEC more than anything. And now you've got a coach in Mike Byington who's come there.
Mark Byington.
Mark Byington come there, done the things that he has to do in this first year, whether that be convincing some guys to stay or going out and getting the right guys in the transfer portal. And he's had a way to do it, and he's stuck with it, and it's worked. And so now students, if you're going to get your team to have to pay $500,000 or whatever, then keep showing up to these games and supporting your team.
It's a really fun backcourt they have. I mean, A.J. Hoggard, the experience he brought from Michigan State as a point guard that can post you up. The kind of toughness and experience that he has been critical for this team. But Jason Edwards is so much fun to watch. 18 points for him against Kentucky. Devin McLaughlin adds 14. He's been really clutch for them in a couple of big moments against Tennessee and against South Carolina. But Vandy forced 17 turnovers in this game. They only committed 5 themselves. Kentucky did not score over the last 256. I think this is always going to be the challenge for Mark Pope coached Kentucky teams, being able to make tough jump shots not in your building. To me, when I look at Mark Pope, Kentucky's system, and what the struggle is going to be for him, it's that game exactly. Can you make enough outside shots, not in your gym, not with your basketballs, not with your background about what's behind the hoop, when you have to on the road?
And, man, just real quick, too, like, local shout-out to Tyler Tanner. I'd heard about him
crushing it
all last year. I heard about how he was bodying teams and stuff. And, like, I never got a chance to see him play in high school. BA product, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
BA product, Mr. Everything in the state. And he ain't scoring a lot of points, but, like, for their coach to come in and say, you know what, we're going to try to recruit the state. And he did.
Yeah.
And they re-recruited him because he was a Jerry Stackhouse commitment.
Yeah, so I just, man, tip of the hat to him because all I'd heard about Tyler Tanner, I heard Tyler Tanner name more than I feel like NBA players around here because he was killing it. And what he's adding to that team right now, 2 steals this past weekend, defense, and, like, I heard the broadcast bragging big time on him. I know Savage has talked about him a time or two also. So, man, whether you go to Vandy, Memphis State, or the Vols, man, like, you legitimately, like, you can stay in state and get your shine is what I would say to people around the Tennessee area, man. Of course, if you want to go to Bama, Oklahoma, whoever, but, like, it's good here in the state of Tennessee also for the talent that want to stay home.
And plenty of breakdown on Tennessee-Auburn coming up later in the show as well, but Vanderbilt was victorious. They deserved the first love this morning. Just lead off the show. 615-737-1045, more conference championship reaction, plus the Titans bring in 2 executives with NFL general manager experience. We'll talk to you about that coming up next.
What's going on? Just about 7 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Josh Allen, 0-4 all-time in the playoffs against Patrick Mahomes as the Chiefs squeeze out another one to punch their ticket to Super Bowl 59, beating the Bills 32-29 and beating Buffalo. Kansas City won for the 12th time this season in a one-possession game without losing. The streak now is at 17 such games going back to last season. So Super Bowl 59 is set with the Eagles and the Chiefs on a collision course in New Orleans. 3HL will be down in NOLA next week. Give you all the information you can stand on the big game. But this week, the rest of the football world is pointed at the Senior Bowl. Titans Radio and Zach Lyons, Football and Other F Words, will be down in Mobile for opinions and updates on the biggest happenings of the week. Zach will join the show at 9:20 today to preview their week. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go down to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Seven a.m. in Nashville, Tennessee, as hour 2 of Ramon, Kayla, and Will begins. RKW 615-737-1045. We stream the show live with our beautiful smiling faces for radio on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. You hit the comment section there. You join the FNN Bank chat, and make sure to subscribe while you are there as you watch us this morning. Coming up in 20 minutes, Shedeur Sanders at the East-West Shrine Bowl was a major topic of discussion, not only for the Titans, but for everyone in the NFL draft community over the weekend. We've got lack of leadership comments already, guys, and it's only January.
Ooh.
Strap in.
Oh boy, here we go.
We'll get to that coming up in 20 minutes. But first, guys, the Titans made a couple of moves over the weekend in the front office. Ian Rappaport, NFL media, with the initial reports about Dolphins executive Reggie McKenzie, who is being brought in for a key senior scouting role, sources told Ian Rappaport. That was in addition to a report from Big J journalists Bussin' with the Boys, who broke the story that former Raiders general manager Dave Ziegler will be the Titans' next assistant GM. Ziegler spent the 2024 season in the Saints front office as a personnel advisor.
Yeah, and I wanted to share a note from NFL exec, a direct quote from him.
I feel like we need
Ziegler.
A sounder right there, like
right?
Sharing a note.
Sharing a note for somebody who knows him very well. Said, awesome dude, totally gets it, smart, and will be disciplined with efficient processes. This is the big one. Good team player. So, good words there from an NFL exec that has been in the business for a minute. So, on Ziegler.
All we're hearing, it seems like, is efficiency. Efficiency, the process. Efficiency, process is what it seems like this entire reshaping of the front office is. Like, this is more of a reshaping of a team than I feel like the actual players are at this point. Mm-hmm. How many new bodies have been added at this point? 3, 4, if I'm not mistaken. Like, and can you imagine what I wonder with all of this going on is what's going to happen with the actual scouting departments that was there, because if I'm not mistaken, there was already a starting of, shaping that up after last year.
Yeah.
So I wonder what those guys are going to do with the scouts that they want to bring in. Will there be a scout tape that is passed out to a bunch of scouts and stuff like that? Like, what is the method and process of the guys that you have evaluating the talent that you want to come in? Because one thing that I see up on all these guys' resumes, even Dave Ziegler, is they have all been like grunt work guys. Like, they've been worms, and I've just finished watching
I was going to say, look at the words you're using.
They've all been worms before, to where like you put them in rooms, you tell them watch tape, you give breakdown and tendencies and stuff like that. So I'm really fascinated to see how these guys do work and who they'll have do work for them.
Jeremy Fowler did note when he first reported about Mike Borgonzi that the Titans wanted someone to come in and overhaul the scouting department. Mm-hmm. So the language they use, the methodology, all those things. So I would expect,
More change.
Kind of like Rand Carthon did. You go one season, you see what you got, you see who likes the new process, who doesn't, and go from there.
Yeah, because you can't just buck everyone out.
It's kind of too late to totally bring in all these new scouts.
Right.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, so what's the process for this upcoming year where you have the number 1 overall pick? And I'm guessing that's where Chad is probably going to play a bigger part than anything right now.
And Mike more than Mike too. I
Dave
know he's
Ziegler,
newer, but
yep, for sure. Dave Ziegler, former GM of the Raiders 2022 and 2023, assistant director of pro scouting, among other jobs in Denver and New England. So you bring in 2 former GMs in Reggie McKenzie and Dave Ziegler to go with your new GM in Mike Borgonzi. How much does that move the needle for you, having general manager experience of the front office? What does that tell you?
It does move it a little bit. I mean, a good bit for me because I've never seen it like this up close. Pittsburgh only had one since I've been here covering the Titans. There's only been one guy in charge, too. To me, I'm very interested to see, all right, what does Last Say have to say, have to do with how these guys, put their input on and opinions on players and stuff like that. And also, does this much experience at being the head honcho really give an advantage to the Titans moving forward? Because I question, why do you bring in so many bodies? Is it because you're so far behind where everybody is and you don't really have much room for error as pertains to the type of players that you're going after? So I really want to see, all right, is every pick that you pick from the first one to the 256th one, are they a guy that can really contribute? Because when you got this many cooks in the kitchen, you better bring me a real good dish.
And that's what I go to right away. Those are guys with a lot of experience. Reggie McKenzie, he's been in the business a long time, worked his way up, to where he is and has a lot of people who understand what he's done in this business. And I know that Ziegler's a little bit younger, but he's still been places and done significant things where he has respect in the business, and probably also has to know, I can do it at a high level. And while this NFL exec that I was talking about said he's a team player, once you get all those people in one room and they all have that type of experience, the key is how do they all work together?
Yeah.
And that we don't know yet. And my first thing that popped in my head last night when I saw all these moves being made was, well, it better work.
Yeah.
And I don't stand back on that comment because this is something that they went out and made it clear that Rand was not the guy for some reason, whether that's because you had to blame someone or they didn't feel like he was fit. And they're making significant changes with big time names, so it better work. And I understand it doesn't happen over time,
right,
but nothing has proven to us in the last 3 years that time is given.
I think that would be true, though, regardless of who they hired. They could bring in somebody who'd never done the job before, and it would be the same level of expectation.
These
because
are
it's Amy
a
Adams
lot
Strunk.
of names.
Yeah, of course.
That's what my point is.
Yeah, what I do, I'll say this too. What I do like about it is this too. Between Dave Ziegler, assistant GM, between Mike Borgonzi, and between Reggie McKenzie is this. Every single one of these guys got Super Bowls underneath them as an exec. That to me says a lot as an exec or a scout. The other part of this I like too for the front office is this. Chad's played, but Chad played in college, if I'm not mistaken. Borgonzi played in college also, football. But you have a guy in Reggie McKenzie that comes in that played NFL football, that's been around his entire life too. So evaluating what guys are from college to the NFL is something I know his experience has, but not just that too. Borgonzi and Ziegler have both been around it in some type of capacity. I do like the former player, NFL player side of this from Reggie McKenzie and his style that he's bringing to this team too. And they've all seen failure.
Well, yeah.
That's the other part of it for me.
He's in charge of scouts, right? That's McKenzie's title, technically.
Is that, I wasn't sure.
No, it was just a senior scouting role.
Senior scouting.
Okay.
We don't know what that means.
Well, yeah, but okay, something in the scouting.
I think there's one thing this tells us, because I think first and foremost, GM experience is great. Neither guy was successful as a GM, though. So I don't really care a ton about GM experience when neither guy had a great record between Reggie McKenzie and Dave Ziegler. I think it showcases a significant level of investment from ownership and from Amy Adams Strunk, though. That's my number one takeaway. We don't know how this is going to work. We don't know if these guys are going to know what they're doing. We don't know if they know how to work together. I think the one thing we can 100% signed, sealed, delivered say out of all this is it wasn't cheap.
Well,
because you've got guys that are not coming in and taking steps up. You have assistants coming to be assistants. You have guys coming into senior roles. In order to encourage people to make lateral moves like that, you have to have two things. One, belief in your process. Clearly, Dave Ziegler and Reggie McKenzie have belief in this project enough to say, yep, I'm on board. And secondly, you got to pay for it. In order to let anyone make a lateral move in this league, you have got to pay a premium price. And clearly, Amy Adams-Strunk is investing a lot of dollars in putting together this front office.
But that's why I feel like this better work. I mean, that's the whole thing. I think it's not like Amy has never wanted to win. Like, we understand she wants to win, and we've seen that because there's been a lot of changes made at the top to try to make that work. But up to this point, none of those have worked, and there have been really short leashes to even see if they would have worked. So that's why I'm saying now, if you're spending extra money to hope that it works, then at this point where this franchise is, you really got to make it work, and you really got to give them the time, because front offices aren't cohesive overnight. And that's like the biggest point with this. Now, if you're spending money, you really got to give them a little time.
Yeah. To me, I look at this also like involving this many guys that are former GMs or guys that are been scouts too. From my standpoint, is one thing I've been saying too. It's just like, I hope this also removes like the front office non-football folks from doing football things too.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
Is that cool? What you guys like?
I think Amy Adams-Strunk is removing herself from the football operations. At least we'll see.
Yeah.
But it hadn't been the case in the past.
I know, and that's why I'm saying, like, even if these guys hadn't won a lot, hadn't done a lot, they got a lot of years in this league and seen a lot of bad and seen some good, too. And these guys, like I said, got rings underneath their belts. Maybe not in the head role, right? But they've seen what a championship team looked like with the Green Bay Packers. I just looked to them. Reggie McKenzie beat me in 2011. We'll have to have a talk about that in Green Bay. But not just that, though. They've been around the Patriots. They've been around the Chiefs. They've seen this. And when we're speaking about, like, what the Titans are with Burke Nihill, where the Titans are with Chad Brinker and Miss Amy, like, now there can be hey, you guys, y'all got the stadium. You got ticket sales. You got all things that are a rival upon getting to the stadium. Yep. What we got over here on the football side, I got your draft, I got your players, I got your coaches. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is when you can remove, like, folks that don't coach and let the people that do football stuff do it, maybe it settles itself a little bit moving forward. That's where I'm at on, like, all these new bodies coming in, because you can't say, well, let me go check and see what so-and-so thinks. No, we got experience right over here. Hopefully this settles and we can get away from, hey, well, what is Amy going to do? No. This is the front office that we have moving forward now.
And there's two words involved in that: time and trust.
Time and trust. I'm really with you. I'm with you.
If we're going to do slogans.
But they've been saying it. They have been saying it. That's one thing I've heard them, like, say time and time again. Like, patience and time. They've even been using words as rebuild. Right. So that, to me, or the stock is low as far as the players they need to.
Because that's not something we've heard in the past.
And I think the intent was right on that.
Yeah,
I think from top down, you had to get to a point where what you thought was going to be a great second year from Will Levis, that you had to somewhat pour into it to put a product out there. And, of course, the way you ended the season last year, you had to give some hope. And I think that's what last offseason was look, hoping that it goes right. By the way, end up finishing the Easton Freeze interview. Callahan gave a lot.
With Brian Callahan.
Callahan.
AtoZSports.com.
Yeah, he gave a lot in that this past weekend.
Coming up, Shedeur Sanders might not throw at the NFL Combine. He met with teams over the weekend, but did not practice at the Shrine Bowl. Do you care? We'll talk about it next. What's up? It's Will Boulding. Is your water heater not heating? Maybe your sink is leaking or the drain is clogged. Well, available 24/7, 365. Our expert friends at Lee Company have you covered for all of your plumbing needs. And right now, you can enjoy $30 off a plumbing service call for a limited time. You just got to contact Lee Company at 615-567-1000. or go online to leecompany.com for an appointment to take care of your home's plumbing from top to bottom. It's a great time for that water heater to not heat as well as it typically does. The weather's so cold outside, you want to make sure you get that fixed and ready to work properly through the cold of winter. So get $30 off your next plumbing service call at leecompany.com, 615-567-1000. That's 615-567-1000. Lee Company, all you need. Monday morning, RKW 615-737-1045. Diving into the NFL drafts. And the number one overall pick here in Nashville, Shedeur Sanders was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. And guys, he was expected to throw some footballs, take some meetings, shake some hands, kiss some babies, perhaps. Maybe not the baby kissing part, but he did not throw any footballs. Matt Miller put it out there on Twitter over the weekend that he was an interview-only participant at the Shrine Bowl. He will not be practicing, but will meet with teams, he said. Well, he did meet with the Titans. And Deion Sanders apparently tried to FaceTime him multiple times during that meeting with the Titans. First and foremost, do we care that he didn't practice at the East-West Shrine Bowl?
No, I personally don't. I mean, where's Travis Hunter? Travis Hunter's not doing anything right now besides workout and combine. I don't think he's doing the Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine, or any kind of open exhibit. So no, it doesn't bother me right now. Only reason I bring up Travis Hunter or those types, I mean, we can bring up Abdul Carter. Where is he at this time of the year? No, it doesn't bother me one bit.
I think the one part that does bother me is that he did actually commit to it. So he did commit to practice and play.
He did?
He did.
Didn't know that.
He decided not to. That's the part where I am like, okay, I have a little bit of an issue with that. If he were just going to be like Cam Ward and say, I'm not doing the East-West Shrine, I'm not doing Senior Bowl, that is that. He kind of went back on his word. And that's the part where I know it's not going to make the biggest difference if you're taking him, but if you're splitting hairs between this quarterback and that, when you compare him everything on the field, and you're like, well, I don't know. Is he going to be a guy that's going to stick with his word? I guess you could look at something like that. I know that's really splitting hairs, guys, but that's the only part that I would say I was a little bit like, okay.
Questionable.
Yeah.
Decision
just
making.
say you're not going to do the practices.
I got you. For sure, I get that.
Well, you can't. That's part of the rules of both these games is that you are not supposed to say you're going to go just meet unless you're hurt.
Oh, gotcha.
So if he said that on the front end, he wouldn't have been able to do any of this.
That's what
that makes sense.
It's just just don't go then, right?
I'm not bothered by it to answer the original question. No, not much at all.
I'm not bothered by it, but I am a little confused by it for both him and Cam Ward not taking every single possible opportunity to prove yourself. Right?
Yeah. There's a definite argument to be made right there. But here's the other part of it too. This is where we get into the weeds of it also. Look at who his dad is in a sense of how to navigate this. Deion did not meet with certain teams. He did not work out for certain teams because he knew he wouldn't be past 5 as it pertains to where he was going to be drafted at. And I feel like at this point right now, earlier part of this draft season, in his mind, as far as what the public is saying, as far as what the scouts are suggesting, he's going top 6, top 7 as far as the NFL draft goes.
Shedeur?
So overexpose yourself, Shedeur? Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. To overexpose
There's enough
himself
teams that need quarterbacks,
Yeah, to overexpose himself to every team in the NFL is also one of those reasons too. This time of the year, teams collect information on you to learn how to beat you later in your career also. So I don't know if he's protecting against that or protecting his shoulder or the knocks that can come from him as far as this isn't the process to lift you up. This is the process of pre-draft to knock you down.
It is interesting, though, because they have different camps, but they do both have the same quarterback coach in this situation that they work with outside of it. And you wonder, with all of the people that these future pros surround themselves with, the advice that they're getting. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing then, if you're going to have advice, be consistent with it. And so that's the only thing that I would say with him. I don't care if you don't practice at the Shrine or don't go to the Shrine or don't go to the Senior. If that's the way you're going to do it and you're just going to show up at the Combine, fine.
Cool.
But just be consistent with your message.
ESPN's Teron Davenport tweeting over the weekend that Shedeur Sanders has made quite an impression on the East-West Shrine staff. TD writes, I've talked to 4 people on staff. They all say he's been pleasant to work with and willing to do whatever they ask of him. He will be attending the remaining practices, but is not participating. Brian Callahan talked to Jim Wyatt at TennesseeTitans.com on Friday, and Callahan, talking about Shedeur Sanders, said, you can tell he's been raised right. He's mature. He has a really poised way about him, and he seems like a really good kid. Callahan goes on. I enjoyed talking to him, and you can tell he is a guy who has been in the spotlight. He knows how to handle himself. He's been paid money, so he has a financial perspective. I think that's interesting, bringing up that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Very much so, because a lot of the time, this stuff becomes a shocker to you. Respectfully, and I love the process of what they got going on, but like Jaden Daniels and his mother right now, like how cautious she is with him and how she is, sideline with him, and hey, you little girls out, you little fast tail girls out there, leave my child alone type stuff. Like Shedeur's been through all of this with Deion. Like, he understands the money component of it, too. And I'm sure Jaden Daniels got broke off nicely at LSU also. But what he's saying, and in my opinion, from Coach Brian Callahan, him getting this amount of money and having to play for another contract, he's doing it for the love of the game as opposed to the need to be rich type of conversation, right? That's what I take from it, in the sense of, hey, this is no shock for him. Yeah. And that's also, to my point, too, I'm not sure where we're going after this, but I'll wait until I get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the day and age that players live in now, and we'll see if it does help them mature at a faster level once they get to the NFL. Is having money thrown at them, having to deal with a lot more because of social media. You're in the media more than ever as a college player. You're dealing with your money as a college player. And you have a lot more people surrounding you as a college player. So I think that could really help some of these guys at the next level, especially the quarterback position, because you do have to mature more. And Shedeur Sanders,
CEO at that
you
point.
are, and he is an example of that. In no way, shape, or fashion do I think he's immature. And he has a certain personality. It's different from Cam Ward's. That's okay. I still think he can be a successful NFL quarterback, and especially because he has dealt with some of those things early in his college career.
Former Jet scout Daniel Kelly took to Twitter and talked about Shedeur Sanders going to the East-West Shrine Bowl and not practicing. He said, quote, Shedeur Sanders red flags. This is the information teams need to dig into during the interview process. Sanders presents himself as a passive-aggressive hothead when provoked. He also has shown a lack of leadership and a lack of sportsmanship on his timeline that should concern teams.
Fascinating. So I recently talked to somebody, had a conversation with Shedeur, and in that conversation, it was they were guarded. He was guarded with them too. And I think it's because of how he's been raised. Also understanding how a lot of people want something from you or clicks from you also. So that passive aggressiveness is, you should get to know me first before I give you everything about myself. And some guys are like that. I've seen people who are just like, oh my, what is wrong with that person? You know what I'm saying? Or the female that people think is the mean girl. Well, why is she like this? She's got to be guarded a certain type of way because you don't let everybody in. And I think that's the way their lifestyle is. Although they give you so much publicly with their videos that they do, and hey, they got prime media and all these types of things. The way I view him is this. This is one of the biggest moments in his career, and has been all of his life for the most part. To get to this point now to where everything has aligned for you to be that type of guy, you got to somewhat protect yourself. And again, I get the passive-aggressive side of things, but I've never heard a teammate say that about him either. So we can publicly say, hey, this guy is a tool, right? This guy is just a bad guy, or this dude needs to be a little bit more personal. Well, sometimes you've probably been burned in those situations before, and you got to somehow learn how to navigate those things. So why should you just be open to everybody that comes around you, is the way I say him. And again, as much as Deion's going to be brought up in this, he's been coached for this type of stuff. I feel like if you're in with Shedeur, you're good. You're golden. You'll never have to worry about him a day in your life. But as it pertains to like what we're speaking about right now, this gentleman from Daniel Kelly, like speaking on red flags on Shedeur just because, hey, you got to figure him out before he opens up to you. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've
never heard his teammates say this.
The only thing that matters to me is that he's done it at every level he's been at a successful rate, with all the media hype, with all the crap that comes along with. He didn't pick his dad. Like, his dad is his dad. And that's the way that they've always done things. And they've been able to really, for the most part, hold their own in terms of going out and proving it. And I know that he, wasn't exactly like going to the playoffs or anything like that, but he had enough success with the teams that he's been with and been able to overcome the hype and all the criticism that I almost feel like it really prepares him for the next level, because it's not going to get any easier in the NFL. The criticism is still going to be there, but you have to still go out and perform. So that's the part that you're going to, take a risk on any quarterback. Let's just be honest.
So we've got two opposite end comments.
We do. And then we have the context from Charles McDonald of Yahoo Sports that says the teams with the top 3 picks, including the Titans, asked Shedeur Sanders not to practice at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Said he's one of the top prospects, and the teams with the top 3 picks essentially confirmed the decision that Shedeur Sanders had made a week before, saying Sanders and his quarterback coach decided a week ago not to participate in Shrine Bowl practices. Friday's meetings with the top 3 teams only strengthened that decision.
That's a little confusing then, that there's all these different, what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not. I mean, it is the season of lies. Believe what you want,
Absolutely.
I guess.
And we talked about this on Friday, though, too, didn't we? Like, in these meetings with coaches, like, this is where they get an opportunity to really agitate you. They really get an opportunity to figure out who the person is. See if you're lying. Like, people know that's one thing about athletes. Coaches know for the most part when guys are BSing them. And I feel like if you get Shedeur in these roundabout meetings that he's able to go into, or any of these prospects, or you've heard at least from somebody around him, whether it be the coaching staff, which is, somewhat unique with Deion Bennett's father, but somebody's been around Shedeur or Cam or Abdul Carter to say, if you want to get the true version of him, I'm not going to personally trash him, but ask him about that. I think it's a little bit more intimate when you get a guy in the room and have to set him down and ask those hard-hitting questions.
I think it's interesting. Brian Callahan, in that interview with Easton Freeze at A2ZSports.com, that is on the A2Z Sports YouTube channel from over the weekend, mentioned that one of his secret weapon coaches is actually the one coaching Shedeur Sanders at the East-West Shrine Bowl. He called Peyton McCollum, who is a quality control coach of the offensive staff, a machine. Said he is the guy that probably the most unsung hero-ness on the staff in Peyton McCollum. He says, who I think people are starting to see a little bit of. He is a machine. The quality control coaches on every side of the ball are sort of your lifeblood, and nobody really understands what they do or how they do it. Ramon Foster, you played 11 years in the NFL. What do quality control coaches do, and how meaningful could that be, the fact that the Titans have a quality control coach who Brian Callahan thinks highly of, coaching Shedeur Sanders and being around him on the practice field of the East-West Shrine Bowl?
One, they know the players a little bit better. It's just like the assistant offensive line coach. Like, he knows what get guys going and doesn't. Like, the quality control guy knows exactly what gets guys going. And on top of that, he also understands, I think, better, because all he has to focus on is the plus and minuses on what a player is actually good at. Like, a quality control guy say, in this situation, you should do this against this guy. Or, hey, coach, you're missing out on the way he spoke about, Coach Brian Callahan spoke about NWI versus Traylon Burks. Remember? Like, a quality control guy, a good one, will understand, coach, he is cooking the secondary in practice. You should probably go with Nick Westbrook-Akine more than Traylon Burks in these moments. So those are the types of guys that you want and have on your staff as it pertains to evaluation, because they're not coaching them. They just want to know what's good for you as a coach and them as a player to help you win those types of games. And hearing him speak about him this past weekend on that A to Z interview with Easton Freeze, I thought was very unique, because you do need those guys. And he also admitted this too. He said he's exactly like him. That's the reason he's pouring into him more, Coach Brian Callahan, that is.
Peyton
McCall.
Well,
it's like he reminds me of myself, like doing what we spoke about, the grunt work, like literally sitting in a dark room, Kayla, and watching every plus, every minus of a guy. And that way you can report back to the coach, because here's the other side of it too. If that quality control guy is wrong, he's easy to fire. So that's why I think it's good to have him down there and say, coach, I'll be honest with you, I love this, I hate that. And that's where it plays a part into, like, them probably telling Shedeur, don't do much. Let us evaluate you solely.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Nobody knows who he is. So let's give people a little bit of a feeling of who this guy is, because I didn't even know really who the guy was. He was assistant wide receivers coach for the Titans this year, but he has a pretty deep background all over the place that includes analyst at University of North Carolina. He was a quarterbacks coach at the University of Washington, an offensive analyst at Eastern Michigan. So a lot of time spent in the college ranks before he hopped onto the NFL scene, where he was a defensive assistant with the Colts. And then, of course, now an assistant wide receivers coach with the Titans, and then going to do quarterback work there at the East West Shrine Bowl game. So he's been all over the place in terms of, seeing what the game is all about at each level.
So Shedeur Sanders might not throw at the combine. Dan Brugler talked about it in The Athletic over the weekend and said no NFL team is going to move a quarterback up or down its board based on the decision to throw or not throw at the combine. But he does right. Choosing not to throw could be a missed opportunity. There are several teams in the top 10 picks who need a quarterback, and selling yourself through the process is the key. The Athletic right now has Shedeur Sanders as its number 17 overall player on the big board, Cam Ward at number 13. I think the Titans should be rooting for both these guys to throw.
Yeah.
Because the Titans need stocks to rise for both of them if they're going to trade out. Not all number one picks are created equally. Right. As of today, I don't think there is a good enough quarterback that's going to warrant anyone to trade up unless that quarterback stock grows significantly over the next couple of months. If I am the Titans, I want both these guys throwing in Indianapolis.
You need as much hype around those two as possible. And maybe you do end up going with one of them. And hopefully they would know before the combine who that quarterback would be that they want. But the biggest thing is if you're not going to get a quarterback, and there's a good chance they don't go and get a quarterback, they have to drum up as much hype as they can to get other teams to bite. And you're right, Will. To get these quarterbacks out and throwing, you know how teams fall in love with guys last minute.
Combine.
I mean, it's like they do one thing and it goes, oh my goodness, we got to get this guy. So I agree. I think it would benefit not only Shedeur, but Cam Ward, because I don't know what his plan is yet.
So it's two things that can happen at the combine. Either they light it up and, hey, everybody's going to criticize by saying, hey, it's routes on air. You know what I'm saying? And you find yourself in a Zach Wilson situation where it's, oh, my gosh, he's throwing across his body. Or Malik Willis, for that matter, too. It's just like, oh, my gosh, look at the arm talent and the athleticism. Like, you really got to, to me, with these two guys potentially going as high as they should or high as they can go in this draft, I think the way they're going to go about this process is – as less as we can expose ourselves, the better it is for them, too. Because unless you're, to me, I'm looking at the list, unless you're Tennessee, Cleveland, the Giants, Vegas, Jets, maybe Dallas, who's actually going to draft these guys? So I think it boils down to their pre-draft management of on-site workouts, too. Will they do something at their pro days also? And the less exposure they get, I think the higher the value stays to me. Mm-hmm. That's just my personal opinion.
You think the less exposure they give, the better they'll be? Because
it'll be teams that have to be serious about drafting them that they'll actually entertain.
Yeah.
It's the way I see it.
I get that point of it, too. And I think, if anything, you could see both of them throw out their pro days where they're more comfortable. They have their guys that they're throwing to, that they kind of hand pick. We've seen that in the past with quarterbacks as well.
It's just interesting. I think in a draft where there's not one clear guy, you should do everything you can to be the guy. And it does feel like whatever one does, the other will probably do as well.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, 100%. It's the teams, I feel like, that really want them already are not going to change their minds on them. And the way I'm viewing it, too, is as polarizing as these guys are right now, I don't think there's going to be many teams that want to move up or down. I feel like the way it's set up right now, the Titans might stay and pick at 1. I've been of the mindset they need to move back and get something else. But the more and more it seems like they are in love with Shedeur. I hadn't heard much about Cam because Cam hadn't been out yet.
Right.
I feel like the more they're probably going to take Shedeur at this point.
Yeah, I don't believe that at all. I think that
you don't believe what?
That they just are already making their minds up on Shedeur. I don't even think that I'm necessarily convinced they're taking a quarterback. And I would be very weary of all the things that come out, even including a 90-minute interview with Easton Freeze, which was really good, talking about quarterbacks. And they're going to do everything they can to drum up the thought to make others look at them and say they're taking a quarterback.
What if they have nobody that want to dance with them and move
They
up?
got to try.
I know they got to try, but to your point, though, as far as drumming them up the way they are.
I still think they have their mind made up on if we're going to do a quarterback, if we have enough surrounding them to make them successful this year. And maybe, Moan, they do fall in love with one of these guys. They still got to bring in a free agent and have, in my opinion, have them start.
To me.
I don't even think this new quarterback should start.
But if what we're saying right now, it seems like there's no clear-cut number one quarterback, then I don't think there'll be a team that wants to move up just to select one if that's not the case. And so my thing is, if they do have to stick at one because they have no dance partners, then they will have to take one of these two guys, the way I view it.
I don't think they have to.
Carter.
They could take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter.
You're 100% correct. They could. But it makes sense to take a quarterback.
That's what Daniel Jeremiah.
That's my first one.
Daniel Jeremiah at NFL.com mocked Abdul Carter at number 1 overall to the Titans over the weekend.
He's supposed to be a generation. I mean, that's what the word is out, is he's a generational talent.
A lot of people think that's Hunter. A lot of people think it's Carter. I would be surprised if the Titans trade back. I would be surprised. I don't think anybody likes these quarterbacks enough to trade up for them and mortgage their future. I think it's almost not practical for them to just use like the 3rd pick or the 6th pick on one of these quarterbacks. So why would they then try to trade up and give you a haul and a future first for number 1 overall? I think the Titans are going to have to stick at number 1. If they could choose it, I think they would choose to trade back.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're going to be able to. 615-737-1045. Coming up next, we have got Preds tickets to give away to UT night. That's right, University of Tennessee night that is coming up this Wednesday in Bridgestone Arena. We have got tickets for you to that includes this snazzy orange and smoky gray Preds Tennessee hat. We'll tell you details on how you can win that and look at some major college football coaching change news that dropped over the weekend coming up next. RKW wrapping up the first half of the show this morning. And we have got some Preds tickets to give away. It is University of Tennessee night coming up this Wednesday as the Nashville Predators take on the Vancouver Canucks. And caller number 5 is headed there this weekend. This Wednesday. 615-737-1045. Wednesday night, Preds and Canucks. And you will get a 4-pack of tickets plus a co-branded Tennessee Preds hat. Wednesday night, 615-737-1045. A 4-pack of tickets for caller number 5 right now. Best of luck and enjoy some good hockey. Wednesday night in Bridgestone Arena.
Playing a lot better.
Over the weekend, major coordinator news, guys, in college football.
It's weird.
How about Penn State poaching Jim Knowles, Ohio State defensive coordinator, to join their staff? First reported by Toby Rowland, the voice of the Oklahoma Sooners. Yeah. Ross Dellinger later confirmed it, and the expectation is that Knowles will make well over $3 million to make him the highest paid coordinator in college football history. Significant for Penn State.
That's what happens when you're having a lot of the money go to the players nowadays, and you saw the roster they bought last year, and that leaves a little bit less for some of these assistants than if they're going to go somewhere else because of a higher amount. They're going to bounce. Like, that's just the day and age that we're in. It's not like it's a higher move by any means. Like, they just won the national championship. But if you're getting paid more money and, you feel like you can do it with a somewhat significant roster, why not?
Yeah, to me, this is super fascinating considering, James Franklin's role in this thing too, as far as like, you got to do something to get you over the hump. So let me go get something from the team that won it all, right? But my question for him at Penn State is, okay, are you willing to spend also on the roster, or are you willing to recruit the way Ryan Day did at Ohio State? Because there's one thing to go get the coach, right? But it's another thing to be able to have the players. It's one thing I feel like we're missing out in, like, saying how great Andy Reid is and how great, Nick Sirianni is right now is, like, really great, good players make legendary coaches. And that's where I feel like James Franklin and his staff has kind of like fell behind Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon right now too. It's like, I can go get any coordinator I want. Heck, we just witnessed this year. Bill Callahan has been touted as one of the best offensive line coaches in the world, and he couldn't make lemonade out of the lemons that he got this year with some of the guys. So I'm with it. You do need good coaches to coach up players, and maybe it's a scheme that he was looking at more than anything.
Yeah.
They will have good players next year.
That's what I say. I feel like he has players.
A lot of talent coming back.
Okay.
Penn State will have to replace 4 starters on defense, but Dennis Sutton is back, returning for his senior season. The running mate of Abdul Carter on the other side last season. He is terrific. One of the best pass rushers in college football this past season. On a Penn State defense that, mind you, was good enough to compete for a national championship. It was Andy Kotelnicki's offense that wasn't able to live up to what their defense was doing. Under Jim Knowles, Ohio State, first in the country in scoring defense. They only allowed 12.9 points per game. Penn State was 8th in scoring defense, only gave up 16.5 points per game in a Big Ten that we now know was pretty good. There's one thing that comes out of this, guys. Expectations for Penn State going into this season will be higher than they have ever been under James Franklin. With Drew Aller coming back, with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen both coming back, they only lose 1 starter on the offensive line. They lose Tyler Warren, okay, but they will have the best backfield in football. They will have maybe the best NFL prospect at quarterback next season. And they have 2 of the best coordinators in college football, in Andy Kotelnicki and now in Jim Knowles. National championship or bust for Penn State in 2025, and I don't think that is an overreaction.
I think, though, that they have to take significant steps forward on offense. So I get it, like you're talking about Drew Aller, but he wasn't good enough in the playoffs. I mean, you're expecting him to take it to another level. Offensively, they're just, in my eyes, not good enough to win a championship right now, and that was apparent in the playoffs. So, yes, they have the parts, but those parts have to get better, and I'm specifically saying on the offensive side because I think the defense is there.
But that's also, in my opinion, like why he's going after a defensive guru. I put air quotation marks around that one to help support getting the ball back to Drew Aller, making sure that offense stays on the field and stuff like that. And to that point, well, I mean, both you guys just made. Penn State wasn't bad this year. It's just that how do you continue to use fine sandpaper to smooth this thing on out? To me, I ain't saying it's boom or bust for Penn State to win it all next year, but I do think, hey, this may be one of the last opportunities that James Franklin gets, because if you go out and get a defensive coordinator and make him the highest in NCAA history, that's saying a whole lot about what you had to do to the boosters to sell it, that he's worth it. And also, there had to have been a conversation that was had that said, if we get this guy, we are in the game. Yeah. We are in the show.
Yep.
And if you missed out on being in the show like that, it's the same way I feel like Ryan Day was feeling the pressure that he did, right? Because of the roster. And he finally cashed in. James Franklin has to cash in, and he's going to find himself in another team.
615-737-1045. Second half of the show coming up next on RKW. Tennessee takes Auburn to the brink. What worries you about this Tennessee basketball team, or what do you take away from their narrow defeat at number 1 Auburn on Saturday night? That's next.
8 o'clock. What's going on? Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Josh Allen now 0-4 all-time in the playoffs to Patrick Mahomes as the Chiefs squeeze out another one to punch their ticket to Super Bowl 59, beating the Bills 32-29 and beating Buffalo. Kansas City has won for the 12th time this season in one-possession games. That streak is now 17 in such games going back to last season. So Super Bowl 59 is set. Eagles and Chiefs on a collision course in New Orleans. 3HL is going to be down in NOLA next week with all the info you can stand on the big game. But for this week, the rest of the football world, attention is on the Senior Bowl. Zach Lyons and Football and Other F Words going to be down in Mobile with opinions and updates on all the biggest happenings of this week. Zach's going to join the show at 9:20 to preview their week down in Mobile. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once. Oh no, you're home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second half of the show and hour number 3 gets started right now on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. 615-737-1045. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling. Robert Walsh makes the show happen. Auburn outlasts Tennessee in a game that was played about as equally as you are ever going to watch. 53-51, the final for the Tigers. The high-powered Auburn offense against the dominant Tennessee defense. Auburn made 18 field goals. Tennessee made 17. Tennessee made 4 threes. Auburn made 3. Auburn had 14 free throws. Tennessee had 13. The Vols had 12 turnovers. Auburn had 11. Tigers finished +4 in rebounds. And, guys, ultimately, the only difference was they made their last shot, and Tennessee didn't.
Yep. And Janai Broome also just body you in the paint, too. That also plays its part. To me, like, the Vols and Lady Vols got to find a better way to stop opposing team from getting second chance offensive rebounds. I feel like that happened in the Auburn game. It happened in the Lady Vols game against Vanderbilt last weekend. Like, that has to be cleaned up, the play in the paint, to me, because when you got a big like Janai Broome coming off a very crazy ankle injury, and for him to be that effective in a game, man, you can't allow it. But I get it. He's that type of dude. I personally was complaining to one individual that was on SEC Network, Ron Slay. It's like, he's getting home cooking. He was like, no, they got to do a better job in defending him, and he can't be that effective coming off an injury like that. So, yeah, a little bit problematic. But as far as game, let me go ahead and give complaint hour. Refs.
Oh, my goodness.
Go ahead, Will.
Doug Shouse.
Come on, Will.
My brother in Christ.
Yes.
You're 2 feet away.
Dog.
2 hands on the back of Felix Okpara is not a travel. And that call completely changed this game. Completely changed this game. It's part of it. It's the reason why the home team in conference basketball gets the benefit of the doubt. Tennessee will benefit from it this season the same way Auburn did over the weekend. But my goodness, that was a horrifically officiated game of college basketball. Right on this.
Yeah, and I think you're always going to get that at certain times. And I don't think that Rick Barnes and them want to use that as an excuse. I think in this situation, it was a well-played game between both teams that I think in the end can both go really far in the tournament. And that's how I look at this whole thing. SEC play is what it is. It's grueling. It's daunting. And on the road, it is going to be really tough to win this year, i.e. Kentucky that just went to Vanderbilt. So in my eyes, it does come down to that last shot. Unfortunately, Zakai Ziegler didn't go in. And I think Rick Barnes said it too. We'd like a little more offense from our team right now, and from the front line specifically. So if they can kind of get that going a little more, guys, I don't really care about some of these losses in the SEC play, because when it's all said and done, you want your team right when it's all said and done in the tournament.
I do, but like when you got Jimmy Dykes complaining about referees, when you got like the commentators.
Jay Billis always complains about
Jay
referees.
Billis was so I mean it was.
But he was complaining about it in Tennessee's direction on Saturday night.
And I get it. Like Will said, this is the part of me when it's not my team. I'm always just like, well, this is the human element.
That's how it works.
Sure. Yeah.
And it is. But like when you see somebody been pulled and you call the travel, but there has to be a reason why. It's just like, do better in those situations. I get it. It's 9100.
Especially games that close.
That close.
That's what, yeah.
And they were already calling certain things anyway. But again, the Vols lost that one. Nothing you can do about it except for be better on the boards. And I mean, nobody was hitting threes. It was that type of game.
Yeah.
Neither team was.
I feel better about Tennessee basketball today than I did going into the weekend.
You do?
I do.
Seeing them against
I didn't expect them to shut down Auburn offensively the way that they did. And my concern coming out of the Vanderbilt game was, is this the same level of Tennessee defensively that we have seen in the past? I think now the answer coming out of the Auburn game is overwhelmingly, yeah, it is. I think Felix Okpara's improvement down low has been a major part in that. And Jedi Broom got his, right? He ended up playing 33 minutes. I think Bruce Pearl, if he was, totally taking truth serum, would probably admit he played it more than he probably should have and probably wanted to originally. But ultimately, right, like he won him the game. Like Jedi Broom is that guy. He is the national player of the year. I do think that if that game is on a neutral floor or in Knoxville, Tennessee wins it. Mm-hmm. I think that is what makes me feel better about the Vols coming out of this. So, look, in January, again, we talk about it all the time. This isn't college football. The result of the game is not the end-all, be-all this time of year. Are you doing things that are building towards being the best version of yourself in March? I see this Tennessee team getting better. They've just got to get rid of these long stretches without points. Because ultimately, when you've got to go on a winning streak to win a championship in this sport, and that is the goal for this Tennessee team, it is so hard to do that when you're going 3, 4, 5 minute stretches at a time without scoring any points.
The exploitation, to your point, of certain weaknesses that the Vols have, I'm glad, to your point, is happening earlier than like when you get to conference play. Because right now I've seen for like the last 2 or 3 games, like Zakai Ziegler's ability to get to the rim and just, put the ball on the string and go back and forth and underneath the rim, he's been denied. Like a buck is around the rim. Like he is getting certain fouls in certain situations, but right now refs aren't calling fouls on the opposing team the way they did in years past. So building off of that, Zakai, like where's the outlet to the 3-point line of somebody crashing down the middle of the paint for an easy bucket right there? Because soon as he, cuts to the basket with the ball in his hand, they are swarming him. They're putting everybody's taller than Zakai. They're putting guards on him that's able to defend around the rim. That's something I think that has to be adjusted to as it pertains to the offense that's being called. And also, like I say too, like if the 3 points not falling, and it didn't this past weekend, then there has to be somebody in the paint that you can dump the ball off to, and they're getting to that point. But again, Auburn, same DNA as the Vols at this point. Defense, and the ability to move the ball around and tire out the opposing team is something that they did well. I thought it was good on good. You're right. You flip the coin, and it's probably going to be a 50-50 matchup every single time with the Vols and Auburn at this point right here. Good on good is the way I saw it, but you can't slip up in those moments and allow their premier player to be him, because that's one thing they had happen last year too, is you had Zach Edey be a premier guy that did what he wanted to do in those moments. So, albeit you need more players to, be able to get in foul trouble to slow them down, which we don't have right now, or just be more efficient on how you defend a guy like that moving forward.
On Twitter, Gator Mike writes in, says, big week for the Vols. They play Kentucky this week, then the best team in the SEC, Florida, this weekend. No, Tennessee just played the best team in the SEC.
Yeah, exactly.
Florida is not that. It is a really big opportunity, though, for Tennessee to go on a run. Your next 3 games are at home.
Yep.
You have Kentucky, Florida, Missouri, then you go to Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. If you win those next 4 games, you put yourself in a really good position to be a number 1 seed once again.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you're going to have to do a lot more work after that, but if you're focusing on what this Tennessee basketball team can just do next, win the next 4 games, and you're probably on the 1 line going to Rupp Arena for your rematch against Mark Pope at Kentucky after that.
And that's the thing you have to start to realize in the SEC that's wild, and I brought this up a minute ago, is when you are at home, you have to defend. It's like you have no other choice nowadays, than to defend your home court. So take absolute advantage of this stretch because those are beatable teams. Yeah, there's some good teams in the mix. There's a lot of good teams in the SEC, but with it being at home, you see how these other teams are doing it. And even if it's skimming by the skim of their teeth, they're getting the wins on the road or on at home.
Yeah.
So you got to do that as well if you're Tennessee. For the most part, that's what they've been able to do this year.
And that's why I think Vols have to take a page out of Auburn's book, and also Rupp Arena too is home
sure.
and Memorial Gymnasium. Also, home has to be toxic.
Rocket.
Students are back on campus right now, and you gotta play with that same intensity that the ball is gonna bounce in your favor. That's what I'm looking forward to this upcoming week, man. You say Kentucky, and then Florida Saturday, 2:00 Eastern, if I'm not mistaken.
It's huge.
It's gotta be toxic.
We already talked about Vanderbilt, Kentucky a little bit earlier this morning. Of course, Vandy, the 74-69 win over 9th-ranked Kentucky, who has now lost consecutive games for the first time this season. Mark Pope in Kentucky going to Thompson Bowling Arena tomorrow night is significant.
It is.
Significant because that is the key in this conference. Don't let one loss become two and two become three. And it is a big fork-in-the-road game for both Tennessee and Kentucky, who are going to be desperate tomorrow night in Knoxville. It's going to be really good.
Can we also say this, too? Keep tradition going, Rick Barnes. Keep it going. All right? You pretty much bent Calipari over your knee and made him call you daddy, okay? That's what I'm telling you. Continuing on, I don't care if they got a new coach. Coach Pope is there? Cool.
Welcome to the
guess
SEC.
What? Welcome to the SEC. This is road environments that you guys are going into, and you got to treat it as such, man. So, Kentucky's good. They got a lot of pedigree there, and they got a very passionate fan base and team back again. This is where the rubber meets the road as far as a skid, Will. You're right.
It's a fascinating contrast in styles.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And as much as Kentucky scores and consistently in the 90s against a Tennessee backcourt that is as good defensively as any SEC team in like a decade, honestly.
Yeah, no doubt.
Between Jemiah Mashak and Zakai Ziegler and Jordan Gainey, who's been excellent, and Chaz Lanier, who's getting better. But in the front court, you're right. Akpara and Phillips inside. It's a really, really fun matchup tomorrow night in Knoxville. And that's one day after Kim Caldwell is going to coach a week after giving birth tonight
Coach
against South Carolina.
2 words you use in that one.
Oh, my gosh.
Crazy.
Shout out to
It's
her.
going to be rocking, man.
By the way,
Good for her.
Speaking of women's basketball, real quick, Kim which one is she? Kim
The
Mulkey.
sweaters?
No, Kim Mulkey.
That's Kim Mulkey.
Y'all are talking about the same person.
You got the same resources, okay? She's talking about South Carolina with 10 McDonald's All-Americans
heard
and
about
stuff. Stop, Kim. Don't do this, okay? You got the same pool that she does.
She had a
Bring me all
rant.
the drama.
If you missed it over the weekend, she had a rant saying, "Well, South Carolina's got 10 McDonald's All-Americans. I don't have that."
Yeah.
Well, the last time an LSU coach complained about a lack of resources, Brian Kelly signed the #1 transfer portal class in the country. So maybe that's just the way things work at LSU. You complain into a microphone and then you get more money to spend. So chestnut checkers.
Bring me the drama. I love
and
it.
then she said, and she keeps them all. It's like, well,
I
maybe she does.
She didn't keep Talasia Cooper, thankfully, for Tennessee.
My dog right there. Appreciate
She
you,
does have
Talasia.
national championship.
She does.
I think Tennessee might pull off the upset on South Carolina tonight.
I'm hoping.
That Lady Vols
that'd be
team
historic.
is very, very, very close to being elite, like national championship level. If they had one more post player, and obviously that's like saying, if they had a quarterback. I know that's a big if. I hear myself as I'm saying it. But they literally are that close to being national title level in year one.
This is what competitively rebuilding is what you would call this one, Will?
It's just different in college sports. Like now in the transfer portal in basketball, you can go look at Vandy in the men's side. Like you can go from being bad to great in one offseason.
But that was like a change of like philosophy.
With,
That's the crazy part
with
with
Caldwell.
Kim.
with Kim,
I mean,
yeah.
that's a change.
Oh, it was.
It's not just like we're bringing in new players.
No, for
They did
real.
both. Yeah. 615-737-1045. Did the Eagles and Ravens save the running back position? Or are we watching a golden generation of Hall of Famers take center stage in the NFL? Or maybe both. That's next.
Nashville is one of the hottest cities in the country with tons to do. Sometimes so much to do that there's too many options, right? Especially when it comes to finding a local real estate agent that you can truly trust. That's why you need to check out my friend Bernie Gallerani. Bernie Gallerani has years of experience. He also has a proven track record, and he's not going to let you down. In fact, Bernie guarantees to sell your home in 30 days or less, or he'll just buy it from you. Look, selling a home can be overwhelming, but for John, working with Bernie Gallerani Real Estate made the process faster and easier than he ever imagined. He couldn't believe how quickly his house sold. From the start, the team was on top of everything, offering expert advice on staging and always being available to answer questions, and even help John finalize the paperwork on his new home. Bernie is the only real estate agent in Nashville recommended by Barbara Corcoran of Shark Tank. He's the only agent I would trust to sell my home. Give Bernie a call on his cell phone at 615-428-2644. That's 615-428-2644. Or go to BernieGallerani.com.
It's an Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl once again in the NFL, and there is one position that we all wrote off way too quickly. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, 615-737-1045. Reports of the running back position's demise were greatly exaggerated. Saquon Barkley yesterday, 7.9 yards per rush, 118 yards, 3 touchdowns. Philly's 55 points were the second most in a playoff game in team history, behind the 58 that they scored in the 1995 wild card round, and it is the most ever by a team in a conference title game. We've watched Saquon Barkley run for 2,000. We watched Derrick Henry get close to 2,000. Josh Jacobs carrying a Packers offense that had some up and down quarterback play throughout the season. Did this free agent group of running backs save the running back position in the NFL?
Yes, in my opinion. One, the quarterback play, to your point, made it a necessity to go find a guy that can support your guy, whether it be Green Bay, whether it be Minnesota, whether it be Baltimore. All of these teams needed a guy to help their quarterbacks out. Even Josh Allen, because while we're looking at it right now, James Cook has been a dog for them. Yesterday, he was, to me, public enemy number one as far as the Kansas City defense goes. But here's the thing about it, too. This is also what's happening to the NFL. The pendulum always swings in the other direction. You go heavy pass, guess what defenses do? They find ways to lock you down, and at some point, the good teams get ahead of the change and start running the football. Most teams will tell you, too, it's still a big man's game. The game is still won as far as the line of scrimmage goes. So what you've seen as of late is those teams find ways. I mean, I'm jumping real quick, but look at Minnesota. They go get Cam Robinson to shore up the offensive line during the middle of the season, too. You got to be able to have these types of players in place and also be able to support them, because as it stands right now, Saquon, Derrick, James Cook, Aaron Jones, all of these guys are premier running backs, and I'm glad to see it get back to that point, too, because I remember the era of Manning, Brady, Breeze, Rivers, Roethlisberger. They're throwing for 320 yards a game. They're no longer doing that as far as like the quarterback play, and it's now going back to the ground game and trying to body people. So yes, they have saved, in my opinion, and Saquon should be deserving of, as I said earlier, the MVP conversation. He is one of the most unique like stats that a player can have in the NFL to me. To rush for over 2,000 yards. It's only been 9 players to do it, and only 3 of those players have gotten MVP. I think when you do something super unique like that, you should be in a position, especially if your team's deep in the playoffs, to win the MVP.
I don't think it saved the position because I don't think it ever went away. I think when it's all said and done, the running back position is an essential part to a team winning. The Kansas City Chiefs, they have Patrick Mahomes. It is the day that we are living in. There are more mobile quarterbacks. We are not in the Tom Brady era anymore. But just because there are more mobile quarterbacks doesn't mean the running back position goes away. Doesn't mean the running back position isn't valued anymore. Isaiah Pacheco has been a big piece to this Kansas City Chiefs team to be successful. While he doesn't get played up as much as Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, he's a key part of that offense being able to at least get past things when it wasn't really operating at the highest level. But I will say this, it's put them back on the forefront, because what did you just have happen? You had the biggest running backs in the game go to 2 of the biggest teams in terms of success as of late. And that highlighted the running back position on a different level, because it wasn't being highlighted with the New York Giants because he just wasn't able to get them to a point where they were successful because it was all on him, right? And he was banged up there. As for Derrick Henry, he was on the Tennessee Titans. As much as he did for this team, the highlights, the lights, the shining lights, it wasn't on him. Now it was on him when he went to the Ravens, and they're a team that's found success in the postseason. And the Eagles, going to Eagles, and with all the highlighted, recognition they get, and they've been able to do it successfully here in the postseason for the past few years. I think it highlighted the position, but I don't think it saved the position, because I don't think the position was ever in dire need for, it wasn't going to go away, is what I should say.
That's the tough part about the conversation, is because, what was the issue? The issue wasn't that running backs weren't useful. The issue was that they weren't worth paying. And I think Pacheco is kind of like the part of the reason that you don't pay a running back. You're able to find a guy in the 6 who's able to have a big part in a team. And if you look, who are the next running backs that should be due for mega deals? Like there's Jahmyr Gibbs, who I would agree with.
Absolutely.
James Cook.
James Cook, is he worth a mega deal?
To Buffalo.
His brother, and that's the problem. His brother came out and tweeted yesterday, $20 million a year. Is James Cook worth $20 million a year? By the way, the same people are saying, well, Josh Allen is doing more with less. Oh, he doesn't have a superstar running back like the rest of he doesn't have the best offensive. Now, which one is it? Does he not have a superstar running back, or is this guy worth being paid? So that's a good point. That's where my issue comes in. So, like, if we're talking about who should be paid, Jahmyr Gibbs, sure. He's an easier one. But all the rest of these guys, why not just draft somebody, especially when a super loaded running back class is coming up, when there's guys of all builds, all sizes, all different skill sets. So you can be like, Alvin Kamara, that was a guy we did pay, but you know what? We're going to double dip back in here and draft this running back out of UCF because he's kind of a scat back. He can fill that same need. Right.
It's like they're more easily replaceable than it is like a quarterback, right? Like I'm not going to say they grow on trees, but you can find them a lot more easy and developed than a quarterback.
You know why?
Or a wide receiver.
In my opinion, because everybody from the time you step on the football field in the backyard, what's the one position or two positions everybody wants to play?
Running back.
Quarterback.
Yep.
Number one always.
And running back.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to live out that dream. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of bodies because most college teams got 2 or 3, right? Mm-hmm. Do I think, all right, so here's the other part of it. These guys we're speaking of, Saquon, Derek specifically, those two are super unique. Not every team is going to be able to have one of those guys. Yeah. Do I think they're Hall of Fame? Yes, they're trending. I think Derek's definitely closer than Saquon. Saquon is continually to grow in his legend of it.
Saquon's not been healthy enough over his career to say he's a stamped Hall of Famer at this point.
Let's throw a quick free agent out there real quick. Najee Harris going to command over $12 million a year?
Ooh.
I wouldn't pay him that.
I wouldn't either.
He can't do enough.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's what I think is interesting is that, again, we're going to be having the same conversation this offseason. The position is in a really good place. Mm-hmm. The free agent market for that position is not. And that is where Bucky Brooks wrote about it at foxsports.com at the end of the regular season. The league finished with 16 1,000-yard rushers this season. 6 players totaled at least 300 rushing attempts, with 13 players tallying at least 10 rushing scores. The running back position is as important today as it has been in years. Where I think it makes the biggest difference is in the red zone. That, I think, is where you see teams like Philadelphia have so much success. They had 7 rushing touchdowns yesterday. And at the end of the day, when you get in the red zone, especially in this league, when you can just throw it up so much and draw a pass interference penalty so easily that puts you on the 1-yard line, you have to have guys to win one-on-one matchups in a phone booth when you get to the red zone. That is the difference between the Titans getting down the field and not finishing. How many dudes do the Titans have on offense that can win one-on-one in a phone booth when space is confined? It was Tony Pollard and it was Nick Westbrook-Akine.
Yep.
Calvin Ridley, you're getting jammed. It's easier for me to cover the space behind me, but I only have to cover 12 to 16 yards and not 40 to 50. You can't run past me. I can catch up to you. So that is where I think contending teams that have already built their lines should invest in running backs. But if you have got an offensive line that you've still got to pay, if you've got a quarterback that's taking 24% of the cap, the way Kansas City is, you've got to structure this differently. But I think there is a class of 5 or 6 teams that should watch Philly and should watch Green Bay and should watch Baltimore and say, yep, this is something we need to prioritize differently moving forward.
And what you love about those two, too, and their backs is that they're not only red zone threats, and we saw it firsthand here in Tennessee. The red zone offense, for the most part, was pretty good when Derek was here. Yeah. They also can be home run hitters, though, in Saquon and Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. And that's like even more bonus, right? Because you have them down there. They can be successful down there and help you, but they can also be good for a home run or two.
The other thing is, not to cut you off.
No, you're good.
But, like, what happened when they took Saquon out yesterday?
Yeah.
Will Shipley ran one in from halfway across the field, too.
That's the thing that is tough for Buffalo is that, like, Ty Johnson and Ray Davis go in and do a job, and they're outstanding. But, again, in the red zone, James Cook is the difference. So is it worth paying that for the red zone efficiency?
And then the other side of it, too, speaking about guys that are on the second tier of running backs, Chuba Hubbard. Another one just got an extension this offseason. During the end of the season for the Panthers. Yeah. I think his average is about, I'm looking at it right now, $8.3 million a year.
Yeah.
Like, is that what a solid running back is going to get in this league? Like, we're never going back to Adrian Peterson, $14 million a year.
Yeah, right. I think if Philly beats Kansas City, you're going to have more teams wanting to be the copycat.
I'd agree with that. Because, and also, not all offenses are created by Andy Reid, right? Where they can get so creative down there, too, and you don't necessarily have to have a power back who's winning those matchups, right? More teams are like Philly where you would love to have that threat of a running back like Saquon.
The bigger issue to me is, and I'm going to make it about me real quick, too, a lot of these teams ain't got a good enough offensive lineman to actually sustain and do what they're doing. Because we talk about, like,
good point.
The worst thing that happened to the New York Giants this year is the fact that Hard Knocks was there. That behind-the-scenes conversation that they had, in my personal opinion, was not wrong. They couldn't afford to pay $12 million for a guy like Saquon because what is their output is going to be when their offensive line wasn't that good. I'm not sure where the Giants ranked as far as rushing yards per game as far as the league goes, but I guarantee it wasn't that good. And I don't know if Saquon was going to elevate them that much higher with him behind them. Yes, they probably would have won a couple of more games. Situationally, they'd have been in a real good spot here or there, but they wouldn't have been that. It's the same way we have the conversation. Oh, well, the Titans should have kept Derrick. You wasn't going to get an almost 2,000-yard Derrick Henry in Nashville, Tennessee this year.
Surprised what he did with the line the year before that.
But when the stars align is what you said, Bucky Brooks said. Well, when the stars align, Kayla, and you got the line, you got a threat at quarterback, and you got threats outside, paying $12 million for a running back.
It's worth it.
It is worth it in that point.
Yep.
It does have to come to, it's got to be good business too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The Giants were this season in terms of rushing 23rd in the NFL.
So if they were if they were ready for Saquon to be their guy and not just be a dude that's selling tickets, now I feel like they will be a better offensive line than 23rd at this point. It's just the way I feel about it. And it's always, hey, the Giants front office was terrible. Yeah, they might be bad, but they also chose to retain their coach, so they think something is there.
Exactly.
And I don't think they were fit to do what Philly is. Philly is, they are, that's a good squad.
It's a good roster.
So are you willing to say the Titans made the wrong choice by not being more interested in Derrick Henry, or do you still think it was the right call to give that money to Tony Pollard?
I think it was the right call.
Because it is a change of offense, too. You were changing an offensive kind of philosophy, and if you kept on holding on to old pieces, I don't know if that would have been even beneficial to Derrick. I don't know if we would have seen those numbers because the line was also, I know we said it couldn't get worse, but in a way, like the right side at least whoever went down.
Yeah, I'm with you. Right side wasn't even really set for the most part.
It didn't get a lot better.
No.
Like, I don't know if it got much worse than it was a season ago because they were not
the left
atrocious, but it definitely did not get overwhelmingly better. No,
it did. Since we were in the conversation all last week on who has the last say-so on who goes and who stays and, the 53rd man on the roster as it pertains to the GMs and front office and stuff like that, I'm still of the mindset that if there was a trade for Derrick that was available, it's easy for me to say this in hindsight, but I felt like this in the moment too. Then you trade him.
Yeah.
That's where I am.
I was all over in the moment. They should have done it.
And they were kind of close, weren't they?
You can get
depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, depends on who you talk to. That deal was done.
Yeah.
And there was it's fascinating watching it unfold the way it is now because you could have got a third or fourth potentially for Derrick and go ahead and restart this rebuild is the way I look at it. But that's all in hindsight. And that's also watching Derrick also cook with another team that you said, well, dang, that could have been us. In my opinion, I don't think you had a chance to be that.
No.
One thing I will give Ren Carthon and the Titans credit for, they got better than what they probably should have gotten for DeAndre Hopkins. He has offered nothing to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Nope.
I don't say that as disrespectful. It's not personal. The Titans got a pick for what DeAndre Hopkins was last season, more so than what he was this season. And the bad news is you're not going to get a fourth-round pick out of him because he's not played close to 60% of the offensive snaps for Kansas City. But getting a fifth-round pick for a guy who is averaging 1 or 2 targets a game, Solid.
It is.
At least you got something.
It's almost like the hardest part, though, was getting to the Super Bowl. I know not for Kansas City, but in a way, that is a hard thing to do.
Well, as a player,
but to play
heck
60% of the snaps, it's like, oh, that's the part where you're like, damn.
You got
Once Hollywood Brown came back, too,
Yeah.
it took more of that production.
Exactly.
No doubt. And of course, I mean, you got to think, too. Yeah, I'll negotiate with you in good faith. Doesn't mean that I have to follow through with it. Kansas City knew what they had to do to not give the Titans a better draft pick. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what smart front offices do. We'll play you at your own game.
60%, yeah.
Yeah, 60%.
He played 59.
Listen, that's why I always say, like, the league is a grimy game.
Yeah.
So I feel sorry for people that lose their jobs and, have to go through certain situations and stuff. But if you sit back and watch the way the NFL operate, it's the same stuff that's been going on for years. We just never put a highlight or a spotlight on it.
It is crazy to me the amount of people who have put out social media posts saying, like, oh, I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl. Yeah, you are. You're going to watch it. It's okay.
You don't have to
It's
love
football.
the teams.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna love it. Yeah. Like it's good football. These are the two best teams in the NFL, and I mean, for a lot of the season down the stretch, these have been the best two teams since about Thanksgiving, when Detroit lost all of their two deep on defense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm watching. My wife asked me the other day, we doing a Super Bowl party? Like, that's what we are with
Any
this thing.
excuse
I'm not
for
going to feel
Super Bowl.
great about either team winning, but like I'm going to watch it. Like I don't understand. Like I know Bert, you weren't as locked in yesterday, but like that's the conference championship games. Like I feel like even you are going to tune back in for the Super Bowl.
Nope.
Okay.
It will be on. It will be on, but I'm going to be in the kitchen.
Hey, Bert, is that more of just because the Ravens and just...
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I don't give a
it's
rip
that
about
simple.
neither one of these teams. I don't want to watch somebody else dance with the girl that I've been drawing in my notebook, Mrs. Robert Walsh, all year. I don't want to. I don't care about none of these people doing pirouettes in the dance floor where I'm supposed to be. No, I'm gonna be eating that chicken salad that Cheyenne makes, that chicken dip, all the good, the hot dogs in a blanket, all of that
Pigs in a
stuff.
blanket.
Yeah, I'm gonna be eating that stuff and laughing at the commercials and then watching some on the iPad. I ain't gonna be watching the game.
Tell you what, though, I mean, the halftime show is going to feed families.
I watch that.
For sure.
Kendrick Lamar and SZA at halftime.
I'll watch that.
And I'm loving it.
Is going to. It is the most excited I've been for a halftime show in quite a while. I mean, the LA one with Snoop was good.
I
but
feel like there'll be a guest, too, that we weren't expecting. There always is something.
SZA's the one that's been
SZA,
announced
he
now.
said.
Well, I know SZA, but there's always like a guest that's not announced.
I know he doesn't need one.
Drake is plus 10,000.
I know.
His catalog.
That's what I was thinking the other day.
Kendrick's catalog is his bag is so unbelievably deep right now.
goodness.
He's good.
That's the only way Drake gonna get back
I
is just
know.
Kendrick bring him out.
I was going to ask you this on the
Yeah.
show today,
There we
so
go
I was
with Drake
kind of
and
leaning
Kendrick.
in
Yes.
that direction.
Yes.
615-737-1045. There was a little bit of concern over the weekend. The Titans were going to lose an assistant coach. We have clarity on whether or not that will happen as of last night. We'll tell you more about that coming up next. What's up? It's Will Bowling, and I want to update you with exciting news from Brentwood Hearing Center. They are dedicated to giving you the most recent hearing device technology on the market, and they want to introduce you to the Phonak Sphere. It's completely dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations when there's background noise. Maybe you're at dinner at a noisy restaurant, you're hearing the table behind you, you want to hear the person in front of you. Maybe you've been at holiday parties over the last month and you're thinking, man, I cannot hear conversation well when there's a lot going on around me. Schedule your demonstration of this industry-changing hearing aid technology, which also connects directly to your smartphone and television. Give Brentwood Hearing Center a call at 615-377-0420 or visit them online at brentwoodhearingcenter.com. That's 615-377-0420 and online at brentwoodhearingcenter.com. That's Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing, better life. Wrapping up hour number 3 this morning on RKW. Coming up in a half hour, our teammate Zach Lyons joins the show. He's already looking at tape, already breaking down the NFL draft class, and will be a part of our station's coverage of the Senior Bowl this weekend. That is also where Ramon is headed after the show this morning.
Loading up the fan van, baby.
Headed down to
6 hour
Mobile.
drive, baby.
Yeah, it felt like 8.
I know.
So
When you said
tell
8
y'all.
earlier, I was like, I don't think it's that long.
Depends on how bad traffic in Montgomery and Birmingham are.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Hopefully it's good today.
At the bottom of the map, baby.
Over the weekend, there was some speculation that the Titans could lose quarterbacks coach Bo Hardigree, who was a candidate to be the new offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears. Instead, Chicago and head coach Ben Johnson have picked 28-year-old Declan Doyle as their offensive coordinator. Dennis Allen will be the defensive coordinator. Richard Hightower retained as the DC or special teams coach, in Chicago. 28-year-old.
Wow.
I mean, that'll be me in July, and I am nowhere near qualified to be an offensive coordinator on like a good Madden franchise.
Yeah.
So anyway, Bo Hardigree will stay put, at least for now, in Nashville, will not be headed to Chicago.
No doubt. Fresh faces, man. I'll say this, for whatever their experience and age is, I'm just happy to see some new guys get an opportunity. Whatever they turn into, whether they got to go back to being, grunt guys, or if they actually do uplift themselves, man, this is big for the NFL because I feel like we've had a retread of the same guys getting the same types of jobs. And even to see Bo Hardigree's name in the conversation.
I was a little surprised.
I mean, you just never know how these teams feel about him. And clearly the Titans feel a certain way about Bo Hardigree, too. And I'll just throw this out here. Maybe they just need the same voice to be around to coach up Will Levis in the future, too.
Well, if that's the case, that's not working. So that was my whole point. I was a little surprised because I know that he's had some past, things in terms of working with quarterbacks, but I just look at the quarterback situation this past year, and I know it's not just on one coach or anything, and part of the problem is the quarterback. But Mason Rudolph didn't have his best year either as a backup.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it's just all about who you know, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. In this business, you doggone right.
It's not like there was
is.
much product to prove this past year.
Yep.
There is an ESPN.com article out there talking about riser predictions for the Senior Bowl. Guys who could help their stock the most. There is a former Vol on this list. Defensive tackle Omar Norman Lott, ESPN's Jordan Reed, says caught his eye while going through film of a loaded defensive tackle class. 9% defensive pressure rate when lined up inside. That was 10th best among all FBS defensive linemen. Jordan Reed says some see him as an early day 3 prospect because of questions about his run defense, but also writes it is easy to see him climbing due to his talent as a pass rusher. Ramon, do you think Omar Norman Lott's getting enough credit out there for how good he was for Tennessee this past season?
Not enough. Absolutely not. Not enough right now. A guy that's a straight ahead. It reminds me, and I'm not correlating him to him, but reminds me of the type of player that Warren Sapp was in the sense where you're going to get upfield and disrupt. Like, he's got to go to a specific team to that point, so you cut off some teams in that matter. And if his run defense isn't as good as you need it to be, that's something that he can get better at. But what you can't supplement in today's game is a guy that can get after the quarterback on his way to stopping the run. That's what he does well. He's strong. He's explosive. He moves well side to side, and he's good with his hands. Here's the other part of it, too. Between Coach Rodney Garner and Rob Ayers up there in Knoxville, you know the technique is going to be there. I think in their rotation, you didn't get an opportunity to see a lot of Omar Norman Lott. We knew how effective he was in watching him. So, no, Will, I don't think he's had enough eyes on him. He, to me, could be this draft class Braden Fisk is the way I view him, to where out of nowhere, he's going to, I hope, goes down to Mobile and wreck shop against some of the offensive linemen. And you know it pains me to say that.
You know a player is good when Ramon is giving them credit as a defensive lineman.
But here's the other part that you get around him, too. This guy's poised. He's dealt with a lot in his life. And I know we're not into the storylines, but he's a dude that's dealt with adversity. I mean, we go back to that picture of him on senior day, posted up by himself. Like, his need to want to be successful is bigger than a lot of other guys in his same position. Not to say that a kid that comes from a two-parent household can't go be a dog. No. But you got a kid that's coming from where he's come from JUCO all the way up to Knoxville and making his way, and did it without asking anybody much help. So,
right.
Shout out to him, man. I root for dudes. He may be a fourth rounder, Will. Who knows? But I see a situation where some team like Washington or Detroit, Houston, for that matter, can utilize a guy like him with how they get after the quarterback.
Real quick, too, he's 23 years old, right? He still has a lot of growth that could be had in terms of his play, because he's logged less than 1,000 defensive snaps in 5 seasons, because he was at Arizona State before. So I think that's the thing you got to look at, too. There's a lot of potential, even more you can get out of this guy. And we saw plenty of it at Tennessee, especially this last season.
Chuck in Clarksville up next to the phones. You can join us at 615-737-1045. What's up, Chuck?
Hey, guys. Hey, I'm going to give you a little history and a prediction. I've watched every Super Bowl since I was 10 years old. I've watched NBC and CBS had the very first one together. And I think we're going to see history this Sunday, next 2 weeks. I think the Chiefs will win their third in a row, and I think Andy Reid will retire. You can write that down. Andy Reid will retire with 3 in a row, and we may be seeing the best and the end of maybe the Chiefs' run.
Hey, now.
Wow.
Thank you, Chuck.
Appreciate that, Chuck.
I really hope you're right.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams would be happy.
Please, God. All of a sudden, Robert Walsh is looking for ring size.
Exactly. And I think Travis Kelce might also retire if that's the case. So.
Yeah, I think when one when one goes, the other one will probably go. And it means no more Taylor Swift at NFL games.
Oh.
Which would be great.
Okay, I was waiting on.
The sun will shine again soon, boys and girls.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my
Hilarious.
gosh. But Patrick's still there.
I am. Without Andy Reid, I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it.
We were singing hallelujah for a while.
If I had to deal with that guy been in the front of me getting deeper into the playoffs, everybody else should have to also. I'm bringing y'all down to lift me up, baby.
You got the Titans away, too. We get it.
Oh, goodness.
It was 5 years ago.
Pain, man.
That think about that. That AFC Championship game was 5 years ago.
It's not that long.
No.
It's not that long
But
ago.
it seems like so long
And no
ago.
one is left over except for Jeffrey Simmons.
Can we also say this, too? Think about how close you were as a team to actually staying competitive. How quickly it falls.
It is the impressive thing about Kansas City. You talk about, like, Christian Benford goes down. Kair Elam has to go in. The wheels fall off for the defense.
Yep.
Like, that's the incredible part about sustaining this. Is like, they've had injuries, too. They've had to make it work.
Yeah.
They put a guard at left tackle. Like, their tackle position is not much better than what the Titans' right tackle position was this year. I mean, it's not that bad, but, like, relatively speaking, it's been awful. And they found a way.
They had deficiency at wide receiver at times. They've had their running backs injured. Their top running backs injured at times. But you're right. They find a way.
Well, you know the difference real quick? They've hit more on their first rounders. We're talking about from that era, Will, that they were in, where Jeff's the only one that's left.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest downfall of the Titans, I feel like, has been the mismanagement of first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
Coming up next, hour number 4 begins after this. The Titans made a couple of big hires in their front office. What does it tell us about the organization moving forward? That's next.
It's Ramon Foster for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Y'all, this company has been around since 1990, and they are family-owned and operated, man. Jimmy Hiller was recently named amongst the most admired CEOs around. This is because of how he truly cares for his team and the clients, man. Hiller takes care of the customers on every single job, every time. They stand by their work, too. So much so that their slogan is, happy you'll bill, the service is free, man. It's 100% satisfaction. If a customer isn't pleased with the work performed, guess what? They will make it right. They always send their professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians to come into your home. They leave it clean and better than when they found it too, man. And they also offer this true transparency pricing. Trust me. I go to places sometimes, I have people come service my house like, oh, we forgot about this. No, you don't deal with that with Hiller. There will be no hidden costs, no hidden fees, no surprises when you get your bill. What you ask for them to do is exactly what they will do, all right? For more details and to book with the company that I trust, simply visit happyhiller.com.
What's going on? 9:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Josh Allen now 0-4 all-time in the playoffs to Patrick Mahomes as the Chiefs squeeze out another one to punch their ticket to Super Bowl 59, beating the Bills 32-29. In beating Buffalo, Kansas City has now won 12 times this season in a one-possession game without losing. The streak now goes to 17 such games going back to last season. So Super Bowl 59 is set. Collision course is ready between the Eagles and the Chiefs in New Orleans. 3HL is going to be down in NOLA next week with all the info you can stand on the big game. But for the rest of the football world, the attention is pointed towards the Senior Bowl. Zach Lyons in football and other F words will be down in Mobile with opinions and updates on all the biggest happenings this week. Zach is going to join the show in about 20 minutes at 9:20 to preview their week in Mobile. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW, hour number 4, getting started on a Monday morning, the Super Bowl set. And it's a familiar one, Eagles and Chiefs. We'll look forward to the NFL Draft and the Senior Bowl coming up in just about 15 minutes. Zach Lyons is going to join us. He will be on location in Mobile as a part of 104.5 The Zone's coverage. Football and other F words will be on location, and our Ramon Foster will be on location as well. Looking forward to bringing the people some content from down there as Kayla and I stay here. We are dividing and conquering this week with lots to discuss.
Looking forward to it, man. We were just talking on break a little bit about how we pinpoint and, focus groups this upcoming week. I'm more eager to watch the defense than I am a little bit more of the offense, the way it's somewhat shifting up. I kind of want to see, there's one guy in particular I want to see, Mason Taylor. Hall of Famer Jason Taylor's son, and how he competes down there in Mobile too. Because I remember his freshman year at LSU, like he's been that guy for a very long time. It's just a matter of what round does he fall into.
There you go. Should be fun.
Yep.
Super Bowl set, of course. Eagles 55, Commanders 23. Saquon Barkley had 118 yards and 3 touchdowns on 15 carries. The analytics say this is one of the best postseasons of all time for a running back. 172 rushing yards over expected, the most by any running back in a single playoff run since 2018. He gained 72 more rushing yards than expected yesterday, according to Next Gen Stats. For Washington, how do we view them moving forward as a contender as their offseason begins one step shy of the Super Bowl?
In my opinion, it starts with, of course, it's obvious take. It starts with Jaden Daniels. Like looking at how he becomes just better, because this year the improv that he's had in his game, having the ability to grow with that. I felt like a little bit of, one of the things that took away from his game was he throws the ball low often, from time to time, and it's not just because of placement. I just think the way he's delivering it sometimes can be a little bit better from time to time. So him, mentally, I think he's got that part of it, and of course, his biggest issue is going to be when teams start to, really focus on how he runs the football and getting them to the ground. Can he continue to protect himself? He's did a really good job of it this year.
Yeah, I think they have something special in Jaden Daniels. There's no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean that there is a chance there's a sophomore slump. I mean, we saw it with C.J. Stroud. They fired their offensive coordinator over it. And so I think there is going to be a situation that he might take a little bit of a step back. But then again, he could prove us all wrong. And a big part of that is, at least though they have what they feel is the base of this team now. They have a new front office that has kind of revamped everything. But more than anything, they've brought in a quarterback that makes the other players believe. I mean, you heard some of the guys after that loss talk about just how much they believed in their quarterback. I mean, he was a captain as a rookie, right? So I think that's what you have to love about it is they have a base and a head coach in Dan Quinn that people also buy into, but there are things they're going to have to be better at. And I think just kind of loading up a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball is going to be important for them. And then you just got to hope that Jaden Daniels doesn't go backwards and he takes a step forward. And that's always hard as a sophomore when you have more tape on you.
And then the other side, too, being strategic with age. Zach Ertz is an older guy, right? They got a few guys. Jamison Crowder's been around for a little bit. Bobby Wagner on the defensive side of things. How can they exit from some of those guys? Like Bobby Wagner ain't slowed down yet, though, although he's saying he did get bodied by Saquon.
Especially in that first run.
Oh, my gosh. So can they be strategic in how they continue to build moving forward with him? He's the crucial piece that everybody's been wanting as far as Jaden Daniels goes, but they got to be in a position to where they continue this moving forward with the youth movement that they're going to have too. Great reset for him so far.
Yep.
Let's go back to the phones. Eric is in Nashville. Up next. What's up, Eric?
Hey, guys, a couple things, and this is concerning the conference championship games. And one quick thing about the Super Bowl. I didn't know if you heard about this. I heard this earlier this morning on the show right before yours in the secondary market already. The cheapest tickets were like $6,200, and the most expensive ticket was $56,000. It's just insane. Yeah, that was on the show just right before you guys came on. Sort of the last story. They do it just before y'all came on the air. But as far as the conference championship game go, guys, in the AFC, boy, I feel for Josh Allen. Not only Josh Allen, but the city of Buffalo. They've got to be, you feel like one of the most, if not the most cursed franchises. Losing 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s, and now Josh Allen and losing 4 straight times to Patrick Mahomes. It's like, what do you do to get over the hump? But you got to give them credit for what they do, whether you like them or not. But as far as the NFC, and I'm going to stir it up, and I don't know if you heard about this. This is what I wanted to talk about. That whole thing with the tush push, where the referee basically warned Washington that if they kept doing it, they were going to allow a score or give them a point. It's like, I've never heard of that. And the thing is, Chris Canty, I guess on ESPN earlier this morning, he went off about that. He was saying that, I don't know what realistic you can do about it. He said he was not advocating for the elimination of the tush push, but the whole thing is like, I guess the snap count or whatever the Eagles were doing on offensive calls, continue to false start. Because as a defense, you're trying to stop that. And the whole rules and stuff like that favor the offense. And I'm not in favor of eliminating the tush push. But it's like, what do you do in those situations? I don't know what you can realistically do. But to say that the referee said, well, we're going to warrant them to score, as Washington's trying to stop that play.
Yeah.
But the Eagles are doing the stuff with the snap count, trying to draw off sides. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Ramon, and just what you guys thought about that, whether or not they're going to take a look at something like that in the offseason. Guys, I'll get off. Y'all take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, sir.
It's there. I'm looking at it. You seen it?
See what?
The rule that the NFL has on this.
Yeah.
Mike Pereira was all over it.
Yeah.
No one
on
really,
Fox.
a lot of people didn't know.
But it makes sense, though, for the people that, I guess it's the Vrabel-Belichick situation, too. When you outsmart the guy at the rules, like eventually you got to find a way to not allow that to happen because it can delay the game. It can cause issues with the flow of the game also. You got to think there's only so many paid advertisements the team, that these games have. And this, to me, is, I think, what happens in these situations right here. It honestly, they got another one. Palpably unfair act. If a player continues to fall on the ground or something like that, like the way the NCAA is trying to rule out players falling on for fake injuries, these rules are already in place, it seems like, for the NFL. We just never had to explore them because, hey, if you're good, you're good. If you're not, then you lose. But it goes like this. Article 2 of what rule this is, fouls to prevent a score. The defense shall not commit successive or repeated fouls to prevent a score. Penalty for successive or repeated fouls to prevent a score. If the violation is repeated after a warning, the score involved is awarded to the offensive team.
Yeah.
It's there.
We just haven't really had to use it.
Yeah, you can't outlaw it. I mean, if you watched the Bills-Chiefs game yesterday, you know that Buffalo could not, for their lives, get the tush push to work.
Oh.
So there's no basis to say that the play shouldn't be in existence because Philadelphia just has that good of an offensive line and that strong of a quarterback to where it works for them. It does not work for everyone. Certainly not. And not a lot of teams have a quarterback big enough to where they can afford to just crunch them
right
in the middle of a bunch of 300-pound people. I know Mike Florio wrote about it at NBCSports.com and Pro Football Talk. I mean, this has been discussed about awarding a score. I know in 2013, Steelers-Ravens, if there was ever a reason to award a score, it was Mike Tomlin tripping Jacoby Jones.
R.I.P.
There are situations where it would have made sense. I don't know. This one felt. I don't think they could have. I don't think they should have awarded a score for that. I'm glad it ended up just working
funny.
out.
I was like, what?
Frankie Luvi thought he was Troy Polamalu, and when we said we have Troy Polamalu at home,
baby.
he thought he was that guy, and he was.
I wanted him to. I said, dare you?
He did.
Award him the score. Dare you?
But he almost got disqualified too. That's the other part of the rule too. Is a player can be disqualified for that too. So Frankie,
he's a hell of
really
a player.
good player.
I don't care.
It's one of them situations where I've seen it also where you put yourselves and others into injury because once you come over the top like that, you fall on legs. So it is what it is.
I wish Troy Polamalu had messed up like that against Kerry Collins, but
Troy did it twice.
But I know.
I mean, you couldn't miss that hair flying over.
Unfortunately, I know.
Superman.
I think the officiating headline out of yesterday is that it is getting harder and harder to argue against the Chiefs' bias. Josh Allen's QB sneak. He got the first down.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we like?
It's almost like just give him
Imagine if the roles were reversed.
Right.
You really think that they would have ruled against Kansas City?
No.
I don't think so.
Not at their home, no.
No, I don't think so. Also, one of the biggest talking points, too, has been tennis, ability to spot the ball in or out in tennis matches. Like, if they have this type of technology, where is this technology for the NFL, the biggest sport in America?
I do think it's apples and oranges because then you've also got to tell when the knee hits. Like, it's not just like where does the ball hit. There's an extra element of when is your knee down or when is your forward progress stopped. So, I don't know. It does feel like there's going to come a time where there's a chip in the football and we can do these things. It's just, it's more unique in football because there's the added element of the knee that comes into it.
There's also the flow of the game, too. When do refs decide that forward progress has been stopped? Because on that Josh Allen, where he tossed the football back, I actually thought that should have been dead play right before he tossed it backwards because momentum was stopped, and he attempted to throw it back to James Cook, if I'm not mistaken, on that play, too. So it's a lot of in the weeds with these calls. It's just that they continue to go Kansas City's way.
They sure do. Coming up, we move forward to the Senior Bowl, the NFL Draft. We'll talk about the upcoming draft class. Zach Lyons, our teammate at Cover 2 from 1 to 3 here on The Zone. He'll be in Mobile with football and other F words. We'll get a primer of what to expect and what this draft class looks like from his perspective coming up next.
Is your concrete in need of repair? Maybe your sidewalk is shifting, your driveway is cracked and sinking, or your porch steps, maybe they've moved on you. Shifting concrete can create a dangerous situation and just trip hazard around your home. So y'all know they can lead to other bigger problems. But it's also this too. Cosmetically, it's just a big eyesore. It's Ramon Falston. Whatever's going on with your concrete, call United Structural Systems. Ask them about their polyurethane foam injections. You've heard about USS for a very long time. It's the same company that's provided superior foundation repair and waterproofing to Middle Tennessee since 1994. Well, guess what? They can also fix your sunken or settling concrete. USS uses polyurethane foam injections to lift and repair your sinking concrete in a matter of minutes. Lifted concrete can be walked on immediately or even driven on after 30 minutes. So don't go through that long, expensive process of ripping out and replacing concrete. No, reach out to the folks that I trust. Go to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. Or call them at 615-488-7855.
RKW on 104.5 The Zone rolls on in hour 4 this morning. Crew's all here. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, joined by our 104.5 The Zone teammate. You hear him from 1 to 3 on Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach. And also on Football and Other F Words, wherever you download podcasts. He is Zach Lyons, who will be representing us down in Mobile this week. Zach, what's up? How are you, man?
Driving right now to go pick up my partner in crime, my PIC, Stoney Keeley, as we go down for this is our third trip together down the Senior Bowl.
I like it. Well, first and foremost, before we dive into the prospects down there and this draft as a whole, Zach, tell the people exactly the content you guys will be creating, where it is, and exactly what they can expect if they are new to Football and Other F Words.
So we'll be going live Monday through Friday, and Saturday. But Monday through Friday, we'll be live at 6 p.m. Saturday, we'll be live right after the game from the press box. Wherever you consume Zone TV, so Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live, you have questions. Tonight will be our preview show, and then tomorrow we'll just review the days. You know, Stoney goes and he watches the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen. I watch the wide receivers, defensive backs, and that's where we split most of our time. So you'll get fully comprehensive information on all the prospects down there that are worth talking about, the good and the bad and the ugly. We keep it 100% real when it comes to the prospects and their performance down at the Senior Bowl.
I love it. Great stuff, and available wherever you download podcasts as well. So, Zach, what do you like about this draft class as a whole? As you look at it from the broad perspective, what makes this group of players, just as a class, unique?
I don't know if there is anything that actually makes this class unique, and maybe that is what is unique about it, is that this is a class not filled with, elite talent, great talent. You're probably talking about a handful of blue chip players, but you got a lot of purple chip players, and, you know, guys that are red chip that aren't exactly blue chip but can play into it, you know, over their NFL career. And I think people are really down on this draft class unnecessarily because they keep comparing it to last year's draft class. Last year's draft class is the anomaly. All those first-round hits, all those great players throughout the entire draft, that's the anomaly. This is more akin to a normal draft class that we usually see, where there's only a few great players, and then everybody else is really good depth. There's a lot of people at these all-star games that I think will rise up boards because they're participating. Even down at the Shrine Bowl, I've been keeping up with that, watching, you know, prospects down there as well, you know, on TV and on the internet and stuff. But at the end of the day, I think that there's a lot of good, solid starters. But if you're looking for that quote-unquote elite talent, I think you got like 5 players in that draft that qualify.
Zach Lyons, our teammate here at 104.5 The Zone. The Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach is on with us today talking draft and Senior Bowl and lies, right? So as it pertains to like the Titans and how they've reset themselves on the front office right now with these former GMs that are now in positions, one of the things that has to be apparent is the ability to build through the draft is all we've heard. Zach, this team has a problem. They got a few of them, specifically at wide receiver. Is there anybody that pops out either at the Senior Bowl or, you know, other than Ted McMillan that's, you know, makes you feel like, yes, the Titans need to go get this type of guy?
I guess this may be the unpopular draft take, but I don't like Ted McMillan, to be honest with you. I'm more of a Luther Burden guy at that top of the round, but there are guys that are down here at the Senior Bowl. I'm thinking Xavier Restrepo. I'm thinking Jaden Higgins, Stavion Williams down there, the kid from TCU, and also Jack Beck. The TCU and Iowa State have 2 receivers each down here that are quality receivers that are going to be going up against quality defensive backs down here too. That's why seeing how they generate off the line of scrimmage, how much separation they get, can they make contested catches, those are going to be things that get answered throughout this week. But I also want to point out someone at the Shrine Bowl, LaJohntay Wester, the slot wide receiver out of Colorado. He has a low contested target rate, a high contested catch rate. So I heard Will talking about guys in a phone booth earlier. Xavier Restrepo kind of reminds me of a guy in a phone booth that can make plays down in the red zone. LaJohntay Wester is another guy because what that means is that he's getting open a lot. And when he's not open, he's still making catches. And then on top of that, he has 7.1 yards after the catch per reception. That dude is something, and I think that's a guy at the Shrine Bowl that's going to move up draft boards. And I think those guys that I named earlier are guys I'm keeping my eye on as well. There's the kid Jalen Royals from Utah State that I'm also interested in watching as well.
Zach, the way you viewed this this pre-draft evaluation of these guys, would you say at least at the Senior Bowl that the defensive side of the ball is probably a little bit more advantageous as far as the draft goes in the offense?
Yeah, I would say so. I would look at the edge group. They kind of lump all the defensive line, your interior defenders, your defensive tackles, and your edge in one group on their rosters. But that is that's a deep class regardless of the Senior Bowl. But at the Senior Bowl, it's super deep. And listen, I was just telling Robert, this is the draft class of all draft classes when it comes to needing a pronunciation guide for everybody. I mean, red squiggly lines are going to be everywhere when you're writing about these guys. But so I'm going to try not to butcher these names. But the kid from Ole Miss, Princely Umanmielen, good luck on that one.
Princely Umanmielen.
Yeah,
I've known that one for a while, yeah.
Umanmielen?
Yep.
Umanmielen, ain't it?
Umanmielen. Okay, that's pretty close. I've heard it both ways. Listen, tied third highest for pass rush win rate out of this draft class, out of edge. Pass rush win rate is something that translates to the NFL. Donovan Izaraku, probably butchered that one as well. 21 tackles for losses, and this is an easy one. Mike Green out of Marshall.
There we go.
So Mike Green is an intriguing prospect. These are all kind of like round two kind of guys, but it'll be interesting to see what Mike Green's hand size is. There was a early release from over the summer, I guess. He had 8.5-inch hands. That's really small. So this weekend, coming from a smaller school like Marshall, going up against this competition, do those smaller hands hinder his production or his ability to shed blocks at the Senior Bowl? Because Senior Bowl is the top of the top. But the linebacker that I'm most interested in, the inside linebacker, because Titans still need one, maybe. We'll see. Carson Schwessinger from UCLA. That dude is a baller. And there's a kid from South Carolina whose name escapes me, but he's been there for 5 or 6 years. And he's a guy that's kind of like that team captain mold.
Demetrius Knight Jr., the South Carolina kid.
That's what it was.
Yep.
Zach Lyons, our teammate, cover 2. You can check it out from 1 to 3 right here on 104.5 The Zone. Zach, when it comes to this quarterback class, I know Jim Nagy has been happy with the quarterbacks that they have got down here. How many of them logistically, though, or realistically, I should say, can you see stock rising with some of this, Senior Bowl play?
Well, the QB3 is really muddled. I know Kyle McCord is putting on a show at the Shrine Bowl for what that's worth. Down here, you're going to be looking at guys like Jackson Dart, because Jackson Dart has the 11th highest in college football last year of wide open throws. So 34.6% of his throws were just wide open. So what can he do? Can he go through his progressions? Can he show that mental acumen to do that? How quick does that stripe on the helmet move when going through his reads? That's something right there. Because if you look at the film, he's got the arm talent. He's got the quick release. He's got the quick decision making. But can he take all that and put it at an advanced, progression read offense? And the stats look really good for him. So, that's a guy that, has a really good chance of it becoming and solidifying himself QB3. Unfortunately and understandably, Ohio State quarterback Will Howard will not be participating. I look at a guy like Jalen Milroe. There are rumors floating around that he may not even throw.
Oh.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the rumors kind of popping up in the draft analyst scouting community. So that will be interesting. But I would say after Jim Nagy subtweeted the Shrine Bowl and Shedeur Sanders, I would say that rumor's probably bunk if I had to guess. But I just want to throw that out there. That is a possibility. That's a guy that needs to throw.
Absolutely.
That's a guy that I thought should have probably gone back for another year. I know that he has a lot of athleticism and a lot of upside, but that's a guy that needs to throw this weekend. And I'm going to throw, maybe it's a little Memphis bias, Seth Hennigan 4-year starter, true freshman starter. I mean, that guy just plays ball, and he's down here at the Senior Bowl. It'll be interesting to see what he does against this better competition than really what Memphis saw throughout his 4 years there.
I like it. Zach, we all know that the offensive line still needs work for the Tennessee Titans. Now, last year, there was a lot of good depth and just upside talent at the Senior Bowl when it comes to the offensive line. As for this year, what are you looking at in terms of the line product down there? And is there anybody you have your eye on that the Titans could be looking at?
Yeah, so this is a weird draft class. And again, nobody really wants to hear that's a weird draft class. But, like, every prospect that you see for offensive line is like, maybe they're a guard. Maybe they're a center instead of an offensive tackle. But I will say that when you start looking at some of the measurements that have came in early, a guy that really probably helped himself is Armand Mabu from Missouri. He's got 34-inch arms. And then really Arizona, Jonah Savania has also large arms as well. So, like, those two guys right there. And then, of course, you got Josh Connerly as well. I look at those three guys as the top. But there's a guy down there from NC State. If you want the guy that is the total opposite of NPF, and this guy's got the dog in him. He's trying to put everybody in the dirt that lines up across from him, is Anthony Belton from NC State. Watch his tape. That dude is a beast. And that is a guy that I'm super hyped in watching this weekend to see if he still brings that same mentality, that same in-the-trenches warfare that he's got going on in his mind, and puts guys in the dirt. That's the guy that I'm looking for.
I like it. You had me at opposite of NPF. Zach Lyons, our guest this morning here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Zach, I know Chad Brinker made a lot of headlines on this show and just in general talking to the media when he made his generational talent comment last week about not passing up on that. Who is more of a talent in your eyes between Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter at the top of this draft?
Oh, man. Gosh, that is such a, because I don't think either of those are generational. I would say that Abdul Carter right now is probably my 1A if I had to put him in somewhere, because I do think while Travis Hunter was really good at both ways in college, excuse me, I've heard some concerns from Kevin Dyson and Blaine Bishop, ironically enough, both on their side, from their side of the ball, about concerns about what Travis Hunter can be at the next level. And so I think there's zero concerns and zero, worries about where Abdul Carter fits, what he can do. And I think that, Travis Hunter is going to be very team dependent. Is he going to play at at corner for a team? If he came to Tennessee, you play him at wide receiver because that's what you need. You need him to have the ball in his hands as much as possible. You don't really need him at corner. So at this instance, I think I would say that I would put Abdul Carter because I think he's the better edge player versus Travis Hunter, who is a really good – he's probably wide receiver 1 in this draft class if you're stacking him up as a wide receiver. But his ceiling's probably not as high right now that I can see as Abdul Carter's.
Fascinating. Some of the names that are going down here, one in particular, man, I'm very fascinated with, Zach, is Cam Scatterbo. Like, is there anything that he can do in this, Senior Bowl environment or just the pre-draft that I feel like he's going to forever have to change the narrative and feel like he's always got to answer the call. But what we saw him do this postseason, man, not to say that he's going to be a superstar for you, but teams like that type of player on their roster. I'm getting a little Eckler out of him, man, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. When you kind of look at the running back position down here, it's a really hard position to really gauge. Like, you have to almost keep in mind throughout the week the film. And you need to be keeping in mind the film anyway, but really you have to keep that at the forefront because a lot of it is just one-on-ones with linebackers. And so it's really hard to gauge who's really explosive. So when you start looking at these running backs, the two things that I think teams really zone in on for these guys is going to be pass catching and it's going to be pass blocking. And so to me, I look at it like that, is that that's what you're looking for out of all of these running backs, including Cam as well, because he only has on the season 34 pass blocking snaps. So he was not asked to snap a lot or pass block a lot. So that was kind of the thing about Tyjae Spears when he came out. It was like, can he do it? Can he line up and take on a linebacker maybe a little bit bigger than him? And so he answered that question with flying colors throughout the week at Senior Bowl when he went down. So we know Cam can catch. Again, he's not really asked to catch a lot, but we know he can. But can he pass block, and how does his pass blocking look like? So that is something that not just him, but all the running backs down there, that is the big thing that you have to look at when you're a scout or a fan. How is their pass blocking? Because you don't really want a guy, for the most part, unless they're elite talent, that has to come off the field. You want a guy that can fill in all 3 downs, all 4 downs, can play and never miss a beat. That's why I kind of always like Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, because they're dissimilar but similar. They can do all 3 things very well.
Zach Lyons covered 2. You can listen from 1 to 3. He's down at Senior Bowl this week. Zach, interesting. I know not a lot of minds are going towards the cornerback position in this draft for the Titans, but how about safety? What is your thoughts on that position and what could be diagnosed down there?
They need a safety. I mean, I don't think you bring back Quandre Diggs, but I don't know. I mean, you kind of saw that when Quandre Diggs went down, the run defense went down with him. So you need, really, for this team, the way that they at least played last year, they need a run defending safety. They need a guy that can go in, fly in, and make some hits. Just basically a fearless guy. Now, I'm interested in this Upton Stout guy, but he's 5'9" on PFF's height. So we know that probably means that he's probably closer to 5'8", which is super short. But he is a guy that flies around and he plays with reckless abandon. He doesn't let his size deter him. And sometimes it's not the size of the dog, but the size of the fight in the dog. So, I'm interested to see him, but a lot of these safeties, that's what I'm going to be kind of looking for, is really more of the game. Is you'll see them in pass coverage, which is fine, but really when it comes to game time, last year, the safety group was just kind of like blah, is very a mess. Everybody kind of blended in together. But then you saw a guy like Evan Williams, who was a safety out of Oregon, really show up on game day. So that's why, at the Senior Bowl game, it's really important to really gauge what they do in live action when they're asked to go and make a tackle at full speed.
He is Zach Lyons, football and other F words, live from the Senior Bowl. Blaine and Zach cover 2, 1 to 3, of course, here weekdays at 104.5 The Zone. Enjoy it down there, Zach. Have some seafood for us and enjoy, man.
Oh, yeah. I'll be posted up at the oyster bars almost every day, so I'll be ready to rock and roll down there. And I got to thank our sponsors real quick. I forgot the guys sending us down. We got Mart Spain Real Estate, who everybody knows. And then, of course, we got Lyons Ford in Lewisburg, Tennessee. Yes, it is a little bit of nepotism, I guess, that my dad was able to pay to send me down here, but I really appreciate. Go to Lewisburg, Tennessee, drive a little, save a lot at Lyons Ford.
There you go.
I love it. Thank you, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
There you go.
Thanks, Zach.
Yes, sir. Zach Lyons with us here this morning, and looking forward to listening in. Should be good.
Plenty of
You
coverage.
can tell Zach's deep into the weeds of it right now, too. He's got guys from NC State all across the board, man. I'm into it.
Coming up, there was a major party foul by a major U.S. city after the NFC Championship game yesterday. Something that I would not stand for if it happened in Nashville. We'll talk about that next. What's up, it's Will Bowling. I want to tell you about my friends at Nolensville Road Auto Mart. And hey, they get it. You are looking for a car and you hear the words buy here, pay here. You're thinking, maybe not number one on my list. Well, most of those dealers, they come with reputations, but the Nolensville Road Auto Mart, they have got the best reputation in the business because they have been doing business in Nashville for 61 years. Like me, these folks are Nashville natives, and they only sell clean title cars under 12 grand. So if you're new to town and you need a place to trust, they've got you. If you're looking for that first car for a 16-year-old in your family, for that new driver, they can hook you up there. And you don't have to take my word for it. The Google reviews are excellent as well. That's saying something for a car dealership. One location on Nolensville Road, close to Thompson Lane. They'll get you in and out in an hour or less. The best part, they're the oldest buy here, pay here in Nashville, and they work with your own financing if you have it as well. The phone number, 615-242-1279. Flexibility, transparency, honesty. That's why I recommend Nolensville Road Auto Mart. Give them a call at 615-242-1279. Wrapping up the show on RKW 104.5 The Zone, and I have an issue with a major U.S. city. Did you guys see what New York did yesterday?
City? No,
So the Eagles won the NFC. The Empire State Building was lit up green. Come on. What are we doing? Yeah.
Oh, I did see that.
They lit up the Empire State Building green. They did it later for the Chiefs, I guess. Red as well. If you ever caught the Korean Vets Bridge lit up, if the Colts won the AFC, like imagine.
That sucks, yeah.
Imagine your divisional rival
What you got on?
wins the conference, and then you light up the building of your city. What are we doing?
I saw that.
What is the meaning behind it, though?
They did it for both teams.
Okay, but still, they're in New York. I get it. Like, you're one of the biggest cities in America, but you're still your own city. You got football teams.
Yeah, you got two.
I'm still confused.
Yeah, they got two.
Nothing of that makes sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's just, by the way, Michael Parsons been receiving a whole bunch of hate too for that same reason. Anytime somebody says something good about the NFC East, he jumps on it. It's just like, bro, no, you play in Dallas, supposedly America's team. You celebrate the blue, okay? Don't come over here saying, hey, this player looks at awesome because he plays for one of my rivals. We don't get down like that. So I'm with you, Will. Absolutely unacceptable for the state of New York City, okay, to actually allow, state of New York City to allow that to be the case, man.
That's some sort of state of mind they're in.
Well, losing is what it is. Okay, it's essentially what they got going on right now, and I'm sure the GM. Maybe this was a backhanded compliment, or backhanded just insult to the Giants GM too. Will maybe that was it.
Who's to say?
I know, but I saw that and I did not like that. It was for the Eagles. Like we know that to be true.
And Kansas City.
And Kansas City. Oh, that's trash. Yeah. Soft.
4 years ago today, Tennessee hired Josh Heupel.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember that conversation too.
Yeah, it was very much a wait and see.
It's not what we're talking about now. That's for sure.
Very similar to the way we feel about the Titans right now. We felt about the Vols exactly 4 years ago.
Well, is that what we're giving them? The Titans, that is, though,
well, it's not what we're giving them.
Huh?
Well,
not
necessarily 4 years. Just apples and oranges, and how long it takes to build a, good college football team versus a good NFL team. But you're in a very similar wait and see mindset that you were to Tennessee football 4 years ago.
I was hesitant to make a reaction on Heupel. Because one, I didn't know a whole lot about him, like at all, as it pertains to like his style, what he's going to be as a leader. All I'd heard was more negativity. Usually in those moments, well, can he coach in the SEC? Well, he can't recruit. What is the offense going to do? And all I remember was the other side of people saying, you know what? If anything, Will, you might have been one of the first ones on that scene to say it. Well, at least it'll be exciting on offense. You got to give some type of just promise that there are better days ahead, and Coach Heupel's delivered on that one. So, shout out to Danny White, Coach Heupel.
I think if anything, Danny White's been the hero in all of this.
Easily, man.
Honestly,
Danny White and Donnie Plowman.
Yeah, I mean they've done it for all sports.
Making the right moves though, and that's what it boils down to. That's what we speak about when we speak about like. You know what I'm saying? Like the Titans making it sustainable. Like everybody been on the same page, making the product look good. And I see Emmett said Heupel is on the clock. It'd be foolish. I do think like he's got different as far as coaching. I think there's different stop gates in place for Heupel along this pathway that's going to allow him to be around for a while. One, it's his AD. Two, he's still winning. That's why we're having a conversation around Coach Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. It's hard to fire a guy when you're winning double-digit games and like you can't fire them when they're winning. Like there are boosters who I think at Tennessee had in the old regime that controlled a lot of the day-to-days and say, hey, we want this guy out. Sure. But it's hard to fire a guy when there's losing involved in it also. I mean, winning involved in it.
Yeah. Is there things that need to improve? Absolutely. Yes. But they also had a rookie quarterback for the most part. Like he was in his first full year.
Yep.
A lot of it does revolve around that. But look at what the defense did. I mean, and the staff, while there's going to be some upgrades a little here and there, for the most part, you want your staffs to stay intact. Like you don't want like just people going and coming and going all the time.
He doubles back with the comment, Heupel's got to do more.
Okay. Well, doesn't mean he's on the clock.
He's made it to the college football playoffs like 4 years ago. What were we even asking for?
Absolutely.
Beat one of the rivals.
And they had to go up against the biggest juggernaut, and it was proven to be through the rest of the playoff in Ohio State.
I will say, as a Vols fans, us beating them at 22 was step one of breaking down what Alabama was.
It took Ryan Day 7 years to win a national championship.
Yeah.
Correct.
And he is at the place with as many resources as anyone in college football.
Easily.
These things take time.
And they was ready to fire him, too.
And they still can't beat their rival. Right.
No one is on the clock.
Yeah. Can't beat the rival.
This is where in our microwave result society, we got to sometimes sit back and say, it ain't like right now, Calipari is getting hired again. Like this is a coach that hadn't won one since 2012. Like sometimes let the method like really play out until it's time to really kick him out the front door with the bath water. Fascinating approach to it. I get it. It's just in my personal opinion, we dealt with this before. Maybe it was time for Coach Foreman to go. But like you got to have a real contingency plan in place for you to be able to make those type of moves, considering the guys just fresh out of the college football playoffs.
Sure.
And yes, that is to me the one sticking point I'm going to go back to. We had no business this quick, this soon, being in that spot, in my personal opinion. I saw us more being like Florida than anything else in the SEC.
You guys were a representative of not as many SEC teams.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Sorry, that's a good thing.
I get it.
Anyone saying Josh Heupel is on the clock today, I would like to know what kind of clock.
Maybe workout.
Maybe, yeah, right. Is he?
Well,
mat drills this time of the year, right?
Is he trying to make it in time for Chick-fil-A breakfast to end? Like, is that the clock that he's on? Like, get there by 10:30? I don't know.
Seriously.
I don't know. No one is on the hot seat in Tennessee football.
Nah, not yet, man. Again, adjustments to the offense, yes. And here's the other side. He relinquished play calling. He pretty much got to give up his job at that. Well, no, he doesn't. He's a head coach. It's your job to facilitate wins. And he's done that each year.
Drive safe down to Mobile.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
I know.
Have fun.
Some of the best food in America in Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile, fresh out the water.
Cajun food is the best type of food. No one's going to change my mind on that, but I think Cajun food is the world's best in terms of food. Well, that is seafood.
Yeah, I don't like the seasoning. I just like seafood.
You don't?
No, I don't like Cajun seafood.
Oh, man. We got to throw that seasoning.
Boudin balls.
All the fixings.
Jambalaya. Cajun. Oh, I love it. So you enjoy it. We will hear from you throughout the week. You're back with us, what, Friday?
Friday, yes. I'll be back Thursday evening sometime.
Lovely.
Nice.
All right. Enjoy.
Well, man,
Go
keep
watch
you guys
some ball.
updated on everything, man.
Yep.
See what kind of connections we can get.
Well, you saying that like, keep me on how everything in the house is going. Make sure y'all feed the animals, break the yard.
Check out Zeus for me.
I joke with my wife about that. Anytime I go out of town, I tell the boys, hey, y'all make sure you watch after mom, okay? But with that being said, man, see you guys tomorrow. Remember at all times, your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.